And we're streaming as well on YouTube. How are you, everybody?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Live exclusively for WCPT in Chicago, standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
Well, it happened. An echo happened. That's weird. We'll deal with it. Clearly, the second round of Democratic debates this week, everybody, all eyes on them in many ways as kind of a, the Mueller testimony was sort of dry and watered down and not exciting. It was very verbally tactical from Mueller's standpoint, and it was clear that that's how he was going to speak. He was trying to avoid speaking in sound bites. And so there was a little bit of hope after that the Democratic national debates, the second round, would actually have a fair amount of excitement to them, to kind of make up for that, a little bit of fireworks, as it were. And there was a little bit of that. There was certainly, let's just dive right into it, shall we? Shall we just start breaking down some of the moments? Because that's how it's broken down these days. Never mind the fact, and by the way, hello chat room and welcome, and it's good to see you all this fine morning. Never mind the fact that all of these, I guess there might be a couple of stragglers as far as depth of policy. All of these folks have their plans laid out insofar as how they would tackle the major issues, healthcare, foreign policy. All these elements are, at this point, if they're not on their website already, they're not going to be. You can almost tell the seriousness of a candidate by the depth, the amount of stuff available, and how well they want to articulate their point at this stage in the game as well. I mean, there's a little bit of strategy there, which makes sense, but overall, you have a broader plan. Once you're this far in and you've made it to the second debate, you're looking to be in the third debate. So far, 8 candidates have qualified to be in the September debate, which it seems to be nearing an area where we may have a one-night debate with as many people as the individual 2 nights, a 10-person. Because I would say that not only are the people, the 8 that are there, there's probably 2 or 3 more that trolls and spoilers and in general political pranksters will want to try to get into the fold. And I think we all know who I'm talking about on different fronts. But this will help them, stack out the night, keep the field from naturally wheedling down. And so let's look at some of the moments from this, and this is from I think it's CNBC put this highlight reel together, and I want you to listen carefully about how they decided to cut up what was effectively, this is just from the second night, what was heard on that night. So here we go. This is the essence of what they thought was important.
It looks like one of us has learned the lessons of the past and one of us hasn't. Mr. Vice President, you can't have it both ways. You invoke President Obama more than anybody in this campaign. You can't do it when it's convenient and then dodge it when it's not. Mr. Vice President, there's a saying in my community, you're dipping into the Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor.
Your plan does not cover everyone in America. By your staffs and your...
Starting to get a theme idea of how CNBC's thought the entire evening went.
Own definition, 10 million people, as many as 10 million people will not have access to health care.
President Trump is trying to sell NAFTA 2.0. He's got a new name for it. It's just as dangerous as the old NAFTA. It's going to take away American jobs like the old NAFTA, like it did to Michigan. And we cannot have Democrats be party to a new NAFTA. So, Vice President, I believe you're the only person on the stage who voted for the original NAFTA. Are you ready to say here and now that you will oppose a new NAFTA and that what you will believe in, which a lot of us hope for, is trade treaties that empower organized labor across the boundaries of the world and give working people power again, not just multinational corporations?
Yes.
Your response? Your response, sir?
Yes.
That's it?
No, he said, would I insist that labor
Be engaged. The answer is yes.
I consider that a victory.
Well, I love your affection for me. You spent a lot of time with me.
He wrote an op-ed was that he believed
the generalized tenor, if you don't know. And by the way, those of you who don't know who's speaking from these clips is basically de Blasio started off with Castro. The Kool-Aid comment was obviously from Booker, which, you know, in general, the back and forth of this is what struck me as the most, like watching this particular thing. Now, it should not be surprising, and nor will it be surprising going forward in this, that the debate moderators, the storyline that you keep hearing from each candidate's main supporters largely, is that the questions that the debate moderators are putting forward are Republican talking points or are clearly crafted to create division between the candidates, or are overly simplified and intellectually dishonest versions of the questions themselves. They are the dumbest possible version of a question about things like healthcare and the like. And to be completely frank, that's their job. I know that everybody who wants you're looking to get rid of Donald Trump, you're hoping that a rising star in the Democratic Party helps to, cut through this ice sheet and plow our way through this horrible circumstance. But there seems to be, and I've seen this all over Twitter, all over social media, it was all going on, that the moderators themselves owe it to the American people to some degree to present a rosier version of every question, that this is a version of T-ball or softball, if you will, and that a lot of their questions, the way they were framed, the way they were pushed, seemed to try and corral the candidates and lock them up essentially in I guess edging around the corner of when did you stop beating your wife type questions, right? And this was the concern. I saw this all over every single one of these, Facebook and Instagram and all the, like, anybody who was following along. This seemed to be the general side. Now, I'm obviously watching from the point of view of a lot of Democrats and liberals and progressives who deeply care about these issues and are used to drinking from the fire hose of news that we see all the time. But when it comes to the debates and the introduction of these candidates to the American people, there are two elements that I think are incredibly important to remind yourself of to basically help you keep your temperature down and your blood pressure low. Is that, on the one hand, this is a gymnasium of ideas. This is not the actual field where the ideas will be tested. That is in the presidential office. That is in the circumstance. And, that when they are presented with a legislative choice, when they are presented with a circumstantial choice, be it a theater of war circumstance or a bill placed on their desk for support, veto, modification, etc. Right? So, this is where those ideas get pushed around and kind of stress tested. I mean, is my favorite way of looking at it. This is where the ideas get stress tested. Can you take the pushy questions and the reshaped questions? And to my dear friends out there who were saying these questions were all Republican talking points, most of the ones it seemed aimed at Warren, there was a lot of pushback about those. And I thought she handled them aptly and very well. But that kept coming up. These are just Republican talking points. And Bernie even sort of wagged his finger at the idea. As Democrats and independents running with the Democratic Party, handling a Republican talking point should be the easiest part of your day. As a matter of fact, the proper response in that circumstance, and this is my advice to all the candidates, is that if you are presented with a Republican talking point and it's plain as day to you, your response should be, well, that's easy. That's just a Republican talking point. They've been selling this nonsense for years. And then go into your plan. But do not complain about the fact that these questions are coming your way, because they're going to in one form or another. And you are, in many ways, there is this idea in the Democratic Party. It's almost what I would call a base jealousy, in that Trump spends so much time massaging the pure base of his party that the pure base of the Democratic Party often seems like, well, why don't we get the same kind of attention, instead of being an open, diverse party that is welcoming to variant ideas, which is the root, I think, of the power of the Democratic Party, right? There is this jealousy about base service that seems to be coming up or whatever, and it's something I think we have to avoid. We're going to take a break. We're going to go into a little bit of these, what was said at the debate, a couple of sound bites from them, and we'll discuss the importance of those issues. But I also want to remind everyone that there is a whole other subtext in this election cycle that has to be addressed, and you have to be made aware of it if we're going to continue to guide this country towards a more just and a country that keeps the promise of America. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. You can watch me streaming on YouTube right now at infotainmentwars.com. How are you, chat room? Good morning to you. Hey, Carl and Julie, our moderators are in there, and everybody, join us in there if you want. Our phone number also, 773-763-9278. We'll be back right after this. Good morning, everybody. Do me a favor. Thanks, EO. I appreciate that. It helps when I've been practicing singing a lot. It gives me that golden voice. Share the show right now. If you could take a moment, right? Just tweet out or Facebook out that the show is on the air and all that stuff. That would greatly help us. I would appreciate that, and as would everybody else. Let them know that we're here. And even just using the infotainmentwars.com. Where is it? I got to get my pages up. Infotainmentwars.com website address to bring people there would be terrific. Share and slam. Thank you, Jamie White. That is our strategy. Absolutely. And good morning, Can't Stop Lying. Look at that. Getting the number up there. 773-763-9278 is the call-in number for the live show. If you're watching this later, don't call the station because you'll end up talking to Mighty House or something like that later. But if you're watching live, you can call in and talk politics with us or whatever. What's happening? Aun Abbas, good to see you, sir. I'm late, but I'm here. Still need to eat. Well, Pamela, I appreciate you coming and being here, and even though you haven't consumed any food yet. And thank you, Julie. And good morning. Hi. Hello. And of course, okay, cool. Excellent. Smash that like if you could. That would be fantastic. Really appreciate that, you guys. Oh, Billy, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. The Hal Sparks Time to Get Gabbard, Jill Stein Whisperer off the stage fund. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I don't. I mean, I think there may be a root point where, some of the money spoilers, because right now you only need 130,000 individual donors that have, they can give $1. That's the weird part of it. They're trying to keep it low. I appreciate that, the indie voter, but it's so low that it can be somebody who's non-committal to these folks can toss $5 to 5 different candidates, and you've got until you find out later it was Macedonian hackers, running funds through a PayPal account, and that's gone, and we still don't have dark money out of politics, so that doesn't mean they can't use that as a spoiler. Talk to that. Thank you, Carl.
This is Doris Davenport, host of The Doris Davenport Show, all local, all the time. I'm on every Saturday morning from 10 to 11, right before Hal Sparks. Now let's get back to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
That's right. So check out Doris in the Chicagoland area if you want to get a keen insight on the local politics, the world that outside Chicago, I don't think people appreciate the world of aldermans the way they could, or alderpersons. Have we moved to the point where we've been able to start calling them alderpersons yet? Although manning something, as in standing there, isn't necessarily a gender-based idea because it's a human, it's basically a guard outside. I think alderman actually comes from that, the stand guard concept. But that's another talk for another time. Either way, okay, let's jump back into a couple of these things. This is Kirsten Gillibrand, who's going after the vice president. She had, tried to make a solid swing at one point.
Women working outside the home would, quote, create the...
This was the reference to an article that Biden had written in 1983, and she read it as to mean that women working outside the home was the denigration of the society. What he was saying was that I'll tell you right afterwards, because if you read the article, it's, yeah.
Deterioration of family. I just want to know what he meant when he said that.
Situation is one that I don't know what's happened. I wrote the Violence Against Women Act, Lilly Ledbetter. I was deeply involved in making sure the equal pay amendments. I was deeply involved in all these things. I came up with the It's On Us proposal to see to it that women were treated more decently on college campuses. You came to Syracuse University with me and said it was wonderful. I'm passionate about the concern, making sure women are treated equally. I don't know what's happened except that you're now running for president.
So the article that came up, 1983 article from Joe Biden, and by the way, a lot of these folks are just having a good time going after the history of Joe Biden because he's the only one with actual history up there of any length, or at least during an arc of a change in the country. But that article in particular, the essence of what he was writing in that bill, and you can read it or whatever, he distinctly lays out his problem is that people making $100,000 or more were able to write off childcare in a bill that was aimed at people who make less than $30,000, and that they were basically subsidizing their childcare aspect so that they could add a pool to their house, instead of us creating a situation where people who are low income could get childcare so that they could work to better their family, school, literally living in a better neighborhood if they were in a rough area, home improvements, that kind of thing. The very same tax break was going to be given to people who they could use it just to add a pool to their house, and that wasn't the point of the thing. And basically, people were having he had an issue with that part of it. But it's not going to be surprising that they're going to go after him. I think it's a bad strategy unless you're arguably Harris, Warren, or Sanders. If you're not in the top five, going after the top one isn't going to help you, especially if you're not even in single digits. That's a whole other strand, which is an interesting thing, because when Gabbard took the fight to Harris, that seemed more of a strategic push than almost any of the others. So in terms of let's see, I'm going to try and find, these. So that was literally, I think, 50%, more than that. It was 2/3 of the clips that they showed for that thing was simply other Democrats attacking Biden, and by, I guess Booker to some degree, the Obama administration in general. So
the senators had several plans so far. And anytime someone tells you you're going to get something good.
By the way, these are they put these in the way CNBC put it was the candidates also hit each other on healthcare plans and blah blah blah. Just as a breakdown, all the clips they show of Biden are in direct response as their rebuttal answers, which is not the same thing as calling, as directly calling someone out. When they ask you, what do you think about your, plan? Well, what they're doing, that's a direct bank shot. That happened a lot. All the shots that they show where it's just like they were attacking, quote, each other, at least from Biden, and I think arguably the one clip they have from Harris is actually their rebuttal shots. They're not direct
10
ones.
years, you should wonder why it takes 10 years. If you notice, there's no talk about the fact that the plan in 10 years will cost $3 trillion.
Unfortunately, Vice President Biden, you're just simply inaccurate in what you're describing. The reality is that our
By the way, it was that was a misspeak on his part. It's 30 trillion. He corrects that later.
plan will bring health care to all Americans under a Medicare for All system.
The plan, no matter how you cut it, costs $3 trillion when it is in fact employed.
The cost of doing nothing is far too expensive.
There are a lot of Americans right now that are hurting.
By the way, this was the interesting thing, too, I thought about the debate aspect of it, was because we are so used to dealing with what the Republicans are attempting, especially when it comes to women's health care, I would say, is none of the candidates, even the fringe ones that you may not even be interested in, are interested in doing nothing. And I thought Warren did a great job the night before of bringing this up. Like, none of us are trying to take healthcare away from people. This is just an argument about how you fix it. And the candidates that framed it like the opposition to an individual plan was the same as an opposition to the idea in and of itself, they were the ones that I think I had the most difficulty with. And Harris fell into that crowd. And you guys know I've previously, I've liked her a lot. She's the AG from California, where I've lived for a very long time, and watching her kind of go after that as a strategy has been an interesting one. I have my own Machiavellian ideas about that. I have no way of knowing if they're true, but to me, the idea of a Biden-Harris ticket has always been floated around in a lot of different circles. I think it's actually a very strong one. The interesting thing for me is that, are they playing at this whole thing like, push me hard and then we'll show how well we can come together after the fact, that we can get back, and that opening line where people were going, I think it was Majority Report, which was just like Biden embarrasses himself with condescending opening line. He says, "Go easy on me, kid." Okay, the man's in his 70s talking to a woman in, I think, her late 50s. Is she? I don't think she's quite 60 yet. She's mid 50s, something like that. An older person referring to a younger person as kid is not diminishing, no matter what they are. Or I think that's a reach and an attempt to make stuff. Again, we don't need to make any more enemies than the world already has. There are enough monsters in the world to try it before we foment this. It's an interesting thing in our chat room. Leonard says, I think Biden will choose Klobuchar. I disagree. I don't think there's any chance of that happening. So, but I definitely think they will pick from the field up there. Here's the thing with a couple of senators, and I think Warren has a problem that nobody talks about, which is she is a senator in an office in a state that is on the cusp of purple, essentially, and that if we lose her as a senator, there's a possibility of a Scott Brown light filling in that gap. And I think there are, if Harris gets the nomination, for example, and runs and wins, the Democratic Party and the governor of California will present someone for the office that will hold the office, and that will be a safe Democratic seat. Any of the senators running, and this includes Cory Booker, because let's understand, Cory Booker is a senator from a state where Chris Christie was the governor. These are not sure seats, right? And anybody who's not in a sure seat, I think it's not a lot. It's probably not a lot, but I'm going to guess there's a 2% diminishment on their support from the practical realm of Democratic voters. I think Warren is to some degree has this weighing over her just a touch, because I think her numbers would be, significantly over Bernie, maybe 4 points, if not for that. I don't think they are concerned about Vermont's seat. If he doesn't get in there, more than likely those people will either, the chances of another independent getting that seat are fairly slim. And there's a very strong chance that a Democrat would move in to that seat as far as election cycle. I don't think people are worried about Bernie's seat. I do think they're worried about Warren's seat to some degree, and I do think it affects her strategically. I also think the same thing applies to Booker for those that do support him and think he's great. Losing a Senate seat when we still don't have control of the Senate at this point is a nervous act for a lot of people, and it makes a lot of sense. We got to take a break. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, infotainmentwars.com. Think about becoming a Patreon subscriber to the show. Support us, patreon.com/Hal Sparks. $5-10 a month immensely helps the show. We've improved our sonic and visual capabilities greatly, and it's largely because of our Patreon subscribers. Hey, if the right-wingers can run entire TV networks off of Patreon, we can make this little putt-putt show go if you could help us out. Maybe it's just something you commit to through the election cycle over the next year. Obviously, independent media and progressive and liberal media is going to be increasingly important as we get shut down all over the country. So think about supporting us. Patreon.com/Hal Sparks. I greatly appreciate it. We'll be back right after this. There's all kinds of perks too, but we'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
There is a police contract that's going to be coming up for negotiation. It seems the mayor...
Thanks, Devin. Appreciate that. Thank you, brother.
Sorry about that.
No worries. It's okay. It happens. VP is a good... VP is a great place to prove our diversity. Biden Warren might not be diverse enough. It's possible. I think it would be. I think a vice president like her, Biden's involvement in, the Biden vice presidency was not a quail vice presidency. It was not a placeholder or something like that. He had active roles in a lot of programs. And sometimes he was the bearer of bad news that, especially in dealing with the blue dogs who weren't going to vote for a public option at that time, no matter how much he and Obama championed it. The awareness was that they were going to shut it down. So they had to find other ways around it to find support structures. Expansion of Medicaid was one of those things, which is what made Medicare for All kind of a floated idea in a lot of ways. He had an active role in getting troops out of Afghanistan, and he, I think, will be more open to a vice president who is an active vice president and all, as well. Not a backseat driver like Cheney, but I think they're going to end up having somebody, if it is someone like Harris. Okay, thank you. If it's somebody like Harris, there will be a lot of things around criminal justice reform. It'll help rehab her image with some of the people who have a question about her as a prosecutor, so that when she runs for president next time, and I think the lesson learned from Gore for a lot of people, and from Biden not running last time, was continuity matters. Yeah, we'll talk. Well put. John Ratcliffe's withdrawal is definitely a plus. That was a good sign this week. Do we want the best president? Of course. Keep the House and control two branches. We can't always pick the highest office because they come from a safe Senate seat. Oh, I completely agree. But if you lose the Senate and McConnell holds on to it, you end up with a neutered presidency anyways. A lame ducks from the start.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So, there's a great discussion going on in our chat room, as there should be. And here's the thing. I am 100% behind basically all these candidates putting forth their plans, putting forth their ideas, mixing it up. I think there needs to be a reset every so often to recognize that the arguments we're seeing on stage, especially when it comes to the Democratic Party, are familial. They are not personal. This is the argument that a family has around the Thanksgiving dinner table, where the idea is we will still love each other tomorrow. And there's a huge difference between that level of fighting and the kind of fighting that you see in terms of, fighting Trump or the McConnells of the world. And over the last couple of weeks, a distinction could not be stronger between the Democratic Party. We are not in the era of Al Gore and George W. Bush, where people are choosing the guy they'd rather have a beer with. There are so many distinct and overwhelming, but the way the McConnells of the world have supported him, Moscow Mitch and Leningrad Lindsay, all those folks who curiously were against Russia for so long, were they were aware of the threat that Russia poses as a country with more nukes than economic hope and an economy smaller than Italy, but more fingers in democracies than anybody since, I guess, Britain in the 20s. That they are a genuine threat because they, it should come as no surprise that Russia is a troll country, that they are effectively, their economy is run on the success of their YouTube comment trolling and Twitter stuff, because that's effectively how their main operation right now is a diminishment operation. If you can't raise yourself up, bring everyone else down. And it's not that hard to do when you've got countries like the United States that take our system of government as a general populace for granted. A lot of us don't respect democracy in a way. We've taken it for granted for a very long time. We look to failed states in the other world. It is the same mentality, by the way, that allowed us to think that we could overlay democracy on other societies at the end of a gun, that takes our own democracy for granted. That the creation of the constant gardening around and the positive evolution of democracy is incredibly difficult. And I don't think we recognize that, because in many ways how we take look at how a lot of us don't vote in general. I mean, if you need a single greater example, I don't know what it is, other than that we get close to maybe 60% voting and we're super excited. That's considered a huge win if we get close to 60% of the eligible populace voting. And when it comes to voting, there is a lot going on outside the realm of sort of internal democratic politics, where if you're looking for an idea and a movement to weaponize and turn into a force for good, you don't have to look far. But overall, this is probably the single most regular news story that I've seen, politically speaking, about a shift in the electorate over the as far as national politics goes, is the idea of Texas going purple. Now, there was recently an article where Ted Cruz was warning people that the slim margin of victory that he had over Beto O'Rourke is a sign of things to come. He is quite aware of this, to the point where he's changing his tone. You've seen a lot less of him since he won by that marginal amount. He's trying to be the invisible senator. Ted Cruz has pulled back almost entirely. Remember how ubiquitous and annoying and grotesque he had been for a good long while. And he got a look at his narrow victory margin in a state like Texas, and very seldom, except on regular right-wing radio and even on a smaller sense, he is invisible comparatively to where he was just a little over a year ago. Now, granted, he was running for an election then, so you have to get out there more. But even then, his languaging, his incendiary stuff before he was running again was a huge part of his brand. Just awful. All of a sudden, he's taking what would, in many ways, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was taking. How do you become a 7-term senator? Well, in the case of Kentucky, you have the seat, and Kentucky doesn't want to lose the fact that their senator is the majority leader, so they're going to hold on to you. And in fact, the minority leader, if in fact they do lose the Senate itself. So Kentucky has an outsized control point, so they're not going to give that up. That's why they're hanging on to McConnell. Seniority and where he is in the hierarchy of the Republican Party gives Kentucky more power than they would have simply by having 2 senators, and they're not going to give that up. But when he was minority leader, McConnell has been in for 7 terms. McConnell was elected senator for the first time, I think, when I was 6? What was I, 4? I don't know. But he's been in there most of my life. And so the plan for a lot of people who ride this out is you go through times, of course, when you're branding yourself as who you are, but then what really benefits you is if nothing's going horribly wrong in your state that your voters will go against, if you can blame it on somebody else, then just be invisible. This is the factor that gives us the idea that everybody hates Congress but loves their congressperson. It's the weirdest constant poll ever that it is regular. But over the last year, we're getting tons of articles like Austin Chronicle, a decade of Democratic gains in Central Texas, turning red to purple and purple to blue. 11 Texas House districts comprise the 5-county Austin metro area. Travis has 6. Williamson is split among 3. Hayes makes up most of 1. And Bastrop and Caldwell together anchor another. State House districts, unlike state Senate or U.S. Congressional districts, are drawn to respect county lines. When this map debuted in 2012, Republicans captured 6 of those 11 seats. Today, Democrats hold 9. Which includes the entire city of Austin. Another article, this is actually I think a TV spot from WFAA in incumbent Ted Cruz in the county. 35 years it was reliably read. This is why Ted Cruz has become all but invisible compared to how he was. 2018 election cycle. Tuesday's midterm was the best election result for Texas Democrats since at least 1994, and gives a lot of reasons why they should think that something meaningful has changed in the state. Ted Cruz recently came out literally tiptoeing around this. This is an article, July 21st, 2019. Ted Cruz, honestly. Really? Ted Cruz on Fox News saying the media caricature of me as a right-wing bomb thrower has never been accurate. There's an article that says this is from Newsweek, August 3rd. This is right away. This is a sign to drive the normal human beings. But I want to read this article at the top of this. Rich Texas Republicans create super PAC to stop state from turning purple. A Republican super money in Texas. Understand for a second. Let's see. Hal never freezes with his eyes closed. That's because I never blink. So hopefully, chat room, this is a little bit better once I've shut those windows or whatever, because I had so many windows open because there were so many articles, by the way, and we got to take a break. So many articles talking about how Texas is turning purple, but what's the conversation happening in the Democratic Party on who's the biggest target? Who was the biggest target? on this week. The Obama administration. Really? That's where we're going to go? We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Okay, I think... did I lose you? Did I lose you again? What's happening? On the radio after the crash, reloaded. You reload everything? I'm going to try and see what the stream says here on mine, and I might have to just bring the video stream down. It says my stream health is fantastic. I don't know what that was. We're all good? Al, you are gone. All right. On my stream, it's fine. Still buffering a lot. Okay. Reload, yeah. Still good here, yeah. I think it might be a service outage in some of the other places. That's the concern. Because I'm checking on YouTube and I've got, full green bar and everything is stream is strong at the moment. Okay, good. To every season, turn. There you go. Gotcha. Yeah, reload your pages. It might just be your internet or different services. There's a bunch of stuff. So it's funny, I get in one of these. Okay, thank you. I get in one of these situations where I invariably see a. And do we have any callers? I don't know. I wanted to check with you, Devin.
Yeah, we got 3 callers right now. If you want to go to them after break.
Yeah, I'll take one after break. There you go.
Got it.
You're not necessarily wrong, Brad. Get used to the idea that we're going to get hit a bunch over this last little bit. I mean, I'm getting, let's see, rolling required bandwidth 2. Momentary required bandwidth is fluctuating. Average required is 5.2. All right. It's funny that I can watch the statistics for the bandwidth as it goes through, and I'm staying at 2. So hold on one second.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
We got some callers on the line, and it's not surprising at all, because there's obviously a lot to talk about. Who do we have first there, Devin?
First, we got Joe out in Skokie.
Excellent. Hey, Joe, hopefully I can hear you, and hopefully you can hear me.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, go ahead.
Hello?
Let him know I can hear him, Devin.
Hello?
I can hear him. Let him know I can hear him.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I
Hey,
can.
Joe, can you hear Hal?
No, he can't hear me.
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you crystal clear. Can you hear Hal?
Okay, I wanted to talk about Bernie Sanders, who I think maybe they should start calling Moscow Bernie. When you look at his votes, when it was 98-2, just him and Rand Paul, who didn't want to put sanctions on Russia. And then when it came up again for Mitch McConnell's Kentucky project with Deripaska, he voted against that again.
Right.
Why is that not being brought up?
I agree. Let me take I'll answer him off the air just because I don't know if there's a bump back or if he'll be able to hear me or whatever. But I think Bernie is particularly tied to them? Not directly. Do I think he's sympathetic to a lot of things? I think he still smarts over the idea that the Russia of today kind of dashed what has strategically been the largest attempt.
Hal Sparks, who am I speaking with?
I can hear you screening calls, Devin, just so you know. That I think he's sympathetic to some of the plans that the Soviet Union was trying and the Communist China is trying, because I think that there's definitely a direct line between socialist programs and the concept of socialism and communism, and that they're kind of strained bedfellows at certain times. We'll just say. That being said, I think he is extraordinarily naive on a couple of points. While his focus has been on domestic economics and his solutions to the domestic economic woes of the average American are, I think, come from a good place. I think a lot of times they are overly simplistic, and I think a lot of people have the same issues with them. I think that's why a lot of people are starting to drift towards Warren, who is trying to solve those things in a similar way, but find a more economically sound long game to deal with them. Instead of, I think Bernie and Yang are kind of now jockeying for the most direct socialist program or whatever. And I think that's just mixed up. I think, if you're going to look at Biden's history and go that he has some old ways of thinking that have stuck with him. I think the same thing is said of Bernie in a lot of economic senses, and I think that the ship has sailed on a couple of those ideas, at least as far as their implementation, without a meteor hitting the earth and us starting society from scratch. And I think a lot of people. And Carl in our chat room kind of goes to this, like the idea of eliminating private medical insurance within 5 years is an idea that's never going to come to fruition. I think for a lot of people it seems pie in the sky, and I think there's a little bit of intoxication in people like Bernie around societies that have wrenched their society in one direction, that they have passed by fiat a new governmental situation. The problem is when you do that, it often requires the death of a lot of people. The Chinese Cultural Revolution comes to mind. So I think maybe there's an argument for Gabbard being a little closer to that argument. But Bernie and Rand and God knows what kind of compromat people, they have on people. I think the Republican Party itself has they got hacked at the same time the DNC got hacked, and none of the stuff came out. So there's two possibilities for what happened to the stuff that was hacked from the RNC. Well, I guess three possibilities. One is there is nothing to see here, which I don't think any of us actually believe is a reality. That's, for any politician, that's absurd. Even if it can be falsified, because here's the thing: somebody grabs all your emails, and every 10th sentence in every 15th email they add something horrifying, and the only way you can just refute them is to release all your emails. It puts you in this weird double bind where you are officially, that's a trap. No one. The second one is that they are holding on to those things for the next election cycle as a secondary spoiler, basically as just to wreck the democracy, which is obviously part of Russia's plan, not just in the United States, but in a lot of other countries. That Brexit is the brainchild of Russia. End of story. They had a lot of useful idiots and a lot of real issues economically that England was dealing with. Specifically separate from the other UK countries, the UK, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, that they had a specific issue with. And they manipulated that through social media and other sources, and arguably through their voter rolls and situations in a lot of ways that I believe personally. And it's in the Mueller report, it's in the Senate's report on Russian election interference, that it wasn't just social media, it just wasn't verbal, it wasn't just a bunch of Facebook stories. They got into voter systems, they stole voter information, they manipulated that information. Many of the people, we're going to find out over time, until we lock this down, until Moscow Mitch is out of the way and we can actually pass bills to protect against these things, one of the most common ways that they're going to interfere is changing your zip code. It's a super easy way. You show up, your address does not match exactly, and you are given a provisional ballot, and it is not counted until later. So the third option, of course, is, I think, the most obvious and the most realistic, and judging from the behavior of the president and his kind of mix of financial benefit versus financial loss, and I think Lindsey Graham's behavior almost more than anyone, is a recognition that there is a degree of blackmail going on. That if we're going to be realistic about what, if the RNC hack and what was made of it, a certain amount of, and the use of compromise by the Russian intelligence services, this is going to be the thing that to look out for. So, for me, is Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and others, and then maybe some Democrats, are they being blackmailed? It's entirely possible. Which is, again, one of the reasons why we in the Democratic Party support the right of LGBT people to serve openly and be themselves. Because one of the key ways that used to blackmail someone was knowing that they were gay and holding that against them, because they would automatically lose their job and automatically lose their relationship and therefore their tax status and all kinds of other stuff. So people would fight that like crazy. Well, guess what? Let people live the way they want to live as long as they're not harming anyone in the process of that, and they're just being themselves. It's amazing the freedom that comes with that. Support people's freedom to be individually free in that regard, as long as they're not harming anybody else. Can't be blackmailed. Just saying, it works. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Slam that like. Look at that. 59 hours. But who's counting, I don't think so. That's right. Don't forget to follow me on Twitch if you're a gamer at all. Regular gaming will proceed again starting this week. So twitch.com/HalSparks. There you go. And then I think I saw where's it? Nerd Halen is at the Whiskey this Monday. Look at that. Yeah, that's right. This is something even I didn't know about. Can't Stop Lying, you are a genius. I'm just saying. I also, if you're ever on Amazon and you do the Amazon and the shopping on the Amazon, if you use my link for my store, for 24 hours, the show gets credit for that, and it gives us a little bit of a sales boost just by your normal purchases on there. So there you go. Yeah, Jim, in terms of going voting early at the county office, I've been doing that for years. That is now my preferred way to vote. And in LA, you gotta, it's a drive, man. It's not even downtown. That's right. Yeah, if you go to the Amazon shop, amazon.com/shop/HalSparks, and it's not just my gear on there, but also stuff I use for Project 50, household cleaning supplies, what kind of apple cider vinegar I use, all that kind of stuff. If you use those kind of things, it gives us a benefit for 24 hours. The next time anytime you use Amazon in the next 24 hours, it'll kind of give us a tip of the hat. So that helps. There's a black tag at a door who's never met with him down as president. I haven't. Huge problem back then, and Tulsi was misleading on a few things. She did her job, right? Bernie is sometimes a little awkward, but I wouldn't go as far as to call him boorish. He's too bright to default into boorishness. Here's the thing. I do think one of the negatives he had was the pushback on the Republican talking point, where I thought he simply could have done that with a certain level of charm and support. You know what I mean? Like you can say that and not go da 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 da. You don't have to yell that it's a Republican talking point. You can mock I feel like mocking the person who's asking the question in a nicer way puts more people at ease than how dare you with that Republican talking point, especially considering the fact that you're going to get hit with that Republican talking point, not just from the Republicans, but from people who've heard it a bunch, and that is their preconceived notion about your idea. Again, this goes to talking to people that are over the shoulder of the person you are criticizing. Oh my God, Mark, the color of Trump's hair the other day at his rally, the like Russian hooker pea yellow, what it looked like old highlighter ink. It's the weirdest. It was so gross. WWS, were you talking about as far as where you go to vote, that it's in Rockford, the middle of the city? Yeah. In literally in LA, it is a 45-minute drive south of the city, and that's without traffic. It's super odd. Now, they're trying to update that so you have better options, but I personally think you should be able to vote early at any DMV, any federal office, anything that gives you an ID that is used federally. You should be able to take advantage of that there. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, so there's a bunch of different stores in the Amazon shop. So there you go. You can, go to there and just see all that stuff. Thank you, Keza. It's awesome. My buddy's son is going to see Tenacious D at Lollapalooza. That makes me feel old. I'm just glad they're playing. That's hilarious. Yeah, I here's the thing, Evernum. I don't blame Bernie for being angry. I'm just saying, how do you weaponize? Sorry?
60.
Great. How do you weaponize that anger to make it functional? You know what I mean? Because, there's a ton of talk these days about how much stress people are feeling. You know what I mean? Like, oh, so I can't do. Somebody every day talks about how emotionally or physically exhausted they are, quote, by this president. And I'm like, on the one hand, I get that it's a lot. On the other hand, it's not like you're living through the Blitz in 1939. Get yourself together. Look at that. Thanks, Ike. Ike super chatted. That is a turning point in the world of progressive media. Bless your heart, Ike. Look at that. And thank you, Charles. Thanks so much. That's awesome.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Hemp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Ma'am, technically you can be fined for swearing at us like that. I think we have a couple other callers on the line, so I want to get to them. Again, callers, I don't know if you can hear me when I'm speaking, so I'm just going to bring you on, and then you can say your piece, and then I will answer you off the air unless you can hear me, in which case we'll move from there. Who do we have first, Devin?
First, we got Ryan out in New Jersey.
Excellent. Hey, Ryan in New Jersey.
Hey, Hal, how you doing?
Good. Go ahead.
Oh, good. I can hear you too. Good.
Awesome.
Yeah, you were wondering if Cory Booker if Cory Booker wins, if he would be replaced by a Republican in the Senate. We right now have a Democratic senator, Phil Murphy. He's on his first term, and we're usually pretty good about doing 2 terms for our governors. And we usually switch for the governor. We switch off. We go Republican, then Democrat, then Republican, then Democrat, and. So
you have a Democrat. You have a Democrat in the governor's office and 2 Democratic senators right now. Is there a chance that that's kind of what I'm talking about, like where they're like, it's too imbalanced, so we're not going to flip the governor right now, so maybe we fill this seat that's in flux. I mean, that's not my concern, but that I feel like that's a running concern.
That's not how.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not how we roll here in New Jersey. We
All right.
Actually, in fact, the midterms, we went from having 7 out of the 12 seats in Congress, we went from having 7 to having 11. So there's only 1 Republican still left in the House. But we would I'm sure Murphy would appoint a Democrat, and then we get to a special election or whatever. I think that, and I actually think Booker's up this year anyway as Senate, so it'd probably be, if you were to win the nomination, or next year.
Yeah.
If you were to win the nomination, then I think it would be a Democrat to run. You know, it would be.
Yeah, but you lose a popular incumbent, and the Republicans, strategize on New Jersey that they run a senator who's known in the state and is a possible, a purplish Republican, but who, once they get in, locks elbows with McConnell, like all of them do. That I think is a concern. Like I said, this is not a huge concern, and I don't think it's a 5% bump for anybody. I do think it's a 1% shave on any of the senators. I think the House is safer, so some of the House people, that's why they're sticking around a little bit longer than maybe they even deserve. You know what I mean? Because nobody's worried about the margin in the House as much as they are worried about the margin in the Senate and taking it back. And I think losing some of these people, because Booker's an effective senator for the for the state of New Jersey. Yeah, so losing him as that senator, there's a little bit of like, I like him, but I don't want to lose him. Yeah,
that's true. That's a fair point too.
Yeah,
and you were talking about Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, she, they have a Republican governor right now, and so she could be a concern, and also so does Vermont actually. So
that's right.
Bernie could be a concern.
That's right. And if they let's say the parties in both those states, most of the time they're like, it's sort of this either written or unwritten law, depending on what state you're in. I don't know what the rule is in Vermont versus Massachusetts, but the idea is that you're supposed to. If a Democrat leaves, you appoint a Democrat. If a Republican leaves, you appoint a Republican or whatever. Well, there's clearly some crossover realm where, I'll appoint a Democrat, but I'm not going to take who the Democratic Party of Massachusetts suggests. I'm going to take this, edgy, blue dog-ish guy or girl that, man or woman that comes from that area. And Vermont may be in more danger of that than Massachusetts, perhaps. But it is a factor, right. And I think that's also, a concern. Like I said, is it 5%? No. Is it 2%? Sure. And right now, you've got people who are fighting for that 13, 14% between Bernie and Elizabeth Warren in places. You've got, Booker. I don't see him coming out of single digits, quite frankly. Even based on. People came away from the last debate saying he's charismatic. He spoke very well. He directed his points. He was on. He had a strategy. He played it out. All the things you want from a candidate, but at the same time, I still feel like he hit a ceiling that isn't going anywhere. Does that mean he's not going for a cabinet position at this point? Because I feel like there's this wall of the fantasy I see right now, and I'm curious what you think about this, is what I would call the wall of Democrats, which is, Biden will be the nominee, but he's going to bring in Harris as his vice president. He's going to put Elizabeth Warren on the Fed or in charge of economic policy. He's going to put Booker in charge of, like HUD or Ag, depending on how you look at New Jersey as the Garden State or as an urban state. That each of these, Bernie would be in charge of, ambassador to the AARP. I'm not quite sure what he would usurp. But you know what I mean? Like, there's this idea that each of these people has a very distinct, you put Inslee in charge of the EPA, for example, that makes a lot of people feel good. You know what I mean?
Yes, it does. And believe me, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. That was my thought watching those debates.
That's right.
Both this past one and the one back in June. I agree with you. We have such strong candidates, and they would make, I think, not only a great cabinet, not just having a great president.
Yeah, and also heads of agencies specifically. And again, even when it comes to Harris, going, okay, what about an AG Harris, right, or head of the FBI, arguably. Is also another great position for a woman of color and an advancement in those areas. It's a terrific step forward for the entire party. It's a step forward for the country, and these are very important, powerful positions, even beyond the vice presidency. So, as people start dropping off, do you think we're going to see language from some of these other candidates as they court these other folks? Going, you know what? I would like to, I've been talking to Governor Inslee about his positions on how the EPA should be run. Who's going to start dropping those little bombs in these, in these things like that?
I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I could.
And I would be for it, quite frankly. I think that's a great, instead of this, like, I'm going to come in, and what we'll do to placate some other people is we'll have some invisible Dems or some invisible, people that aren't lobbyists. So, we'll definitely create a contrast with what the Republicans are doing right now, this, like, refill the swamp concept that is going on in the Republican Party that seems the most blinded, weird. I think that's driving more independent voters away from Republicans, and Trump this time, arguably even than his racist language. Is the lobbyists and the idea that there was this idea. Snowden last time said a vote for Hillary Clinton is a vote for Goldman Sachs, and a vote for Donald Trump is a vote against Goldman Sachs. And then here comes Trump and literally fills his cabinet with former Bear Stearns and Goldman Sachs people. Like, couldn't wait. Literally, we have a military-industrial complex lobbyist in charge of the army right now. Like, there's never been a more direct.
That's true. Even our Secretary of Education is the sister of. They're the largest
charter school. That's right. Yeah, as a military contractor, but also she was like, a major charter schools lobbyist and activist for years. So, it's one of those things like hire a babysitter who hates children and has a history of abuse. Like, it makes no sense, but that's what they did. So I think there's a lot of independents who. And this is where we get into the language world, and I appreciate your call. We're at the break point, but I do want to maybe address this before we go, and see how you feel about this. That I think a lot of people are okay with parsing Trump's language to go, he's being racial but not racist. That he's definitely tugging at some people, but I don't think he's directly being racist. There, you can hear all the language around this, but I think the thing that's driving them away is actually his direct lies about draining the swamp. That they went for him not because they knew he was gross, and they knew largely he would be ineffective about the most illegal things that he did, and they think he's being grotesque about race right now, the way he was being grotesque about women in the last election. That's not what's driving them away. What's driving them away is the material aspects of who he's bringing in and putting people in charge, because he basically just wants to be an emperor who gets oiled every 2 hours. It's not really about what he's doing. Just he's Dom DeLuise in History of the World Part 1.
Well, maybe so, but I also think it's as well that the people he has put in charge, first of all, he's always overruled them constantly, and he just has no strategy of any of these policies.
Yeah.
And it's also created a cluster bleep of, and I think people who are more economically
savvy
concerned and more stock market concerned are like, we're in trouble. We can't support this guy anymore. So I can see it from that perspective.
Yeah. Well, it's like he's the captain of the Titanic. He's steering towards the iceberg and thinking he can melt it with charm. I mean, that's effectively his strategy with North Korea, is that, he's like a 10-year-old who thinks he's just seen Superman, and he's pretty sure he's got heat vision if he tries really hard, and all he's going to do is burst a blood vessel and pass out, right? But he's just standing on the bow of the ship going, I know I can melt it. And you're like, everyone is going, you're insane. And you got the key to unlock the chain you put around the wheel, so we can't steer away from this, you nutcase. That applies to, and look at how the Fed is just basically like, we're ignoring him and we're doing little pieces that are basically puff piece shifts in the economy, because it's on the arc it's been up since Obama took office. It's the same arc that's been going along this entire time. The stock market was 6,400 when Obama took over. It was 19K when he left. Trump would need another 7 years of this kind of growth to match that, and yet he keeps throwing his shoulder out, patting himself on the back. We got to take a break. I appreciate the call. It was a really, really great points, and thanks for filling me in on New Jersey. I appreciate you calling in, and it was great being there in Atlantic City. We're growing an audience there. It's been really fun. So we'll be back right after this. We got more callers. 773-763-9278. We'll be back. I want to roll back and get, because the chat was blazing by. I agree, Amy. I think anybody who's like, Hillary, it was the lesser of two evils. Like, oh my God. You know how deluded you'd have to be to, yeah. You guys are still talking like Trump is the problem instead of a symptom of a corrupt system. Do you mean the Republican system, or are you talking about A. Smith? Are you talking about democracy, or dark money, for example? Because you do have Democrats who are running on the idea of getting money out of politics, turning over Citizens United, fixing that actual system. Just because a festering wound is a symptom of a worse disease doesn't mean that while you're treating the disease, you don't clean, disinfect, and bandage the wound. You know what I mean? You don't just let it fester. You don't pour dirt into it. Does that make sense? So, there you go. Trump is racist, he's a bully, and I won't be the one oiling Trump. That's his vice president's job, right? Yeah, we got shows coming up. Santa Barbara, 01 show, which is very exciting. Also, I'm doing Bumper, my guitar player, my other guitar player, because I also play guitar, has a side project, and they're debuting this time, and I'm actually
60.
Thank you. Doing a song with him. Thank you, Devin, very much. And everybody, big applaud in the chat room for Devin this time, because he's... Let's see, I got to bring this up here. I think... And there we go. We need a whole new Congress, otherwise nothing will change. We have not attended our government for years. We don't need a whole new Congress. There are a lot of great congressional people in there. We don't need to get rid of Elijah Cummings because of what the Republicans are doing. If that, yes, I will post for patrons, by the way. We will have a stream of the 01 show and if I can work this out with Nerd Halen, the Nerd Halen show.
I'm Dick Kay from Back on the Beat, and here is the mega worldwide radio program with Hal Sparks.
Thanks. Welcome back. Dick Kay will be on right after our show in the Chicagoland area. Of course, we do a post show at infotainmentwars.com if you want to join us there. And if you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll also get free comedy shows and free music shows. And if you join our the Blue Patch Brigade, you'll get a little blue patch in the mail that allows you, when you come to a show, to bring a guest for free. So you get you buy a ticket, it's like a buy one get one free thing that I have arranged over the next decade with the clubs that I'll be performing at, that allows our Patreon subscribers to come and do that. And it's great. And you can introduce a friend and it doesn't cost you anything if they go, I hate him. So that being said, one of the things that comes up, and this was, I'm not faulting anybody who floats this, but it's something I see come up a lot, and we'll get to a call in just a second. It's something I come up, like the throw the bums out idea. We need and Pamela cleared in our chat room cleared this up, but she it's the languaging of it. She said we need a whole new Congress, otherwise nothing will change. We've not tended to our government for years. I don't know about you, but I vote every election cycle, and I think everybody in our chat room does as well, and I'm sure you do too, Pamela. But I hear that a lot, that they're all corrupt, that the whole government needs to be awash. That in and of itself is a Russian talking point, and is a referential point that a lot of people go to, and it is specifically a talking point that's been floated for a long time that resulted largely in how Trump won last time. This idea that the whole system is a mess, that everybody has got to go. They all got to go, which is ridiculous, because you would never do that. You have a corrupt police officer who, shoots someone. You might say that the police commissioner overseeing that needs to focus more on training, making sure that people are that the hiring practices are better. But you wouldn't fire every cop who has saved a life who has protected and served, who's taken, a bullet for the community, you wouldn't fire them and get rid of their pension because of that person, right? No matter how awful they were. And the same thing applies, I think, to Congress. We're not going to get rid of Elijah Cummings because of Jim Jordan. Like, I don't buy it. The answer is always absorb the difficulties, revel in complexity, and support the good. It has to be the plan. Because if we're just going to be like, they all got to go, then that's a talking point, and it gets thrown around a bunch, and I personally am not playing with that at all. So there you go. I think we have another caller on the line. I want to get to them before I rant our way into another break. Who do we have, Devin?
This time we have Chris out in Palatine.
Excellent. Hey, Chris. Welcome.
Chris, Al, you're coming through loud and clear, so
Excellent.
No issues there.
Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to first mention that I am one of the hated, detested, and reviled people in the Democratic Party.
Oh, you're a moderate?
I am a moderate.
Right. Yes.
I used to be considered. By the way, I'm 69.
Yes.
I used to be considered a liberal.
Yes, a crazy liberal, by the way. You were probably.
Right.
Let me guess.
60s,
Yeah, you were.
I don't know if you're old enough to remember that, but
Right. So
at any rate,
I won't scream at you. Go ahead. I will allow you to say your ridiculous, malinformed, venomous piece. Go ahead. You vicious beast.
Okay.
Right.
All of these pipe dreams that these people have, and I talk about AOC and the gang,
Mm-hmm.
there's one thing and one thing only, that if Trump gets reelected, everything that you so-called progressives believe in, everything that you want, everything that you hope for will be destroyed. It will be gone for a generation or more. Period. End of sentence. Now, and based on that, I think that there's only one candidate who can beat Trump, and that is, Joe Biden. And I wish that Biden had really slapped back hard, particularly Cory Booker. Cory Booker was, I did not watch the debate. Frankly, at dinner time, I'd rather listen to Mozart than listen to a bunch of 30-second sound bites. And so Mozart won.
Yeah, as a debate, it was more of like, essentially, the only debate-ish part of it was where the moderators tried to sick people on each other. But largely, in a format like that where there are 10 people, I tweeted this out, a couple days ago, but the idea that you would spend any time in a situation where you're defending someone else's or fighting someone else's ideas instead of selling your own is insanity.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up. But the thing I wish that he had slapped back on, because Cory Booker seemed to be really attacking, and saying, well, you should tell us what you told President Obama. And you should, and then he's been condemning Obama's policies. He should inform him that, and I would do it rather condescendingly, said, something like, Senator Booker, if you should ever become vice president, you will understand that you are there to support the president, and it is the president's policies, not yours. Likewise, if you give advice to the president, I would tell him, I'm not going to tell you what I told the president. That is between the president and me. And it's none of your damn business.
Right, because there's two fronts there. One is I don't want to open up a lane where I was against what the president was doing and denigrate him after the fact, and I also don't want to take credit for ideas that I presented when they are part of the Obama presidency's legacy. Because talk about two bear traps.
The president's policies, and the president is quite free to accept, reject, any or all of the advice that he is given by any and all of his advisors, because it is his decision. And I would say, Senator Booker,
because he's a decider.
If you have an issue with President Obama and his policies, tell us right here, right now. Tell us that you detest President Obama, you detest his policies, and just aggressively get in his face and say that.
And also explain how you would have presented a different idea that would have gotten past Mitch McConnell and the Republicans, how that would have gotten actually to legislative success. Because, I mean, that's part of what you're running for president anyways. If you're saying, as a president, I would have done this differently, and it would have succeeded because I would have done this. And that's how you dovetail that question. That's what I was kind of talking about before, is that you take the reins. If the moderators or another candidate who's running presents you with that kind of conundrum, go, I'm here to present my ideas, not deal with refunds on anyone else's. And I'll tell you that I have a lot of respect for those who came before me, both in the recent history and in the deep past, who were moving this country forward, even in a mitigatory fashion because of the realities of the election politics and the fact that we are a robust democracy and you're always pushing against people who are not only, genuinely disagreeing with you from a conservative or liberal standpoint, but who may be vehemently and viciously against your ideas. And both of those people exist. Both of them have recourse in our electoral politics, right? So tell me how you would have done it. And here's the problem with what I get where you're coming from, but there is no way, by the way, in our current electoral climate, and especially in the Democratic Party, that an older white man can be condescending towards a young black senator from New Jersey without opening up a can of worms beyond what the intention is. Even if the point is he views him as an equal and he's addressing him as an equal, it will not be perceived as such. This nonsense
about everybody. First of all, everybody, and this is all the press, Huffington Post, Politico, Slate, every one of those publications are, they've got a big target on Joe Biden. You see more articles anti-Biden. They hate Biden, and frankly, as I said, I find it, and if I say this to all of these so-called progressive candidates: don't tear down somebody. Don't tell us how bad he is. Tell us how good you are.
Right.
And none of these people are telling us how good they are. They're just saying how bad Joe Biden is. Yeah,
I agree with that. I appreciate the call, and we're right at the break, and I think that's a good point to end on, and I'll address a little bit more of that on the other side of the break. But I appreciate the call, and I'm certainly not, I am not willing to put moderates in our party in the same category as the Ted Cruzes and the Jim Jordans and the Donald Trumps of the world. And anybody who does so, I think, is being disingenuous. I think one of the things. Well, we'll talk about this when we come back. I want to talk to you what I would call the Charlotte effect that Donald Trump is attempting. And some Democrats play right into its hands, and it's very dangerous. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Yes, thank you guys so much for liking and giving the thumbs up and stuff. We got 198 people in here today and 125 thumbs up. If you haven't done it yet, give it a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Share the show also helps us out a lot. We got a half hour left in this particular show, and then we'll have an hour of post-show today. There you go. Progressives didn't tear down Biden, Kamala Harris. Their moderator did. Caller, check that and get back. I would argue that most of the progressives in those regards were on the other night. But I think he's right in terms of the media part of it, because Majority Report is in the tank for Bernie no matter how good Warren does, which seems odd to me. Sam Cedar and Michael and all those guys are. Michael's admitted it, but the rest of that show is the Bernie for President show. And that's fine. Have that as your way of being. I find it odd that, and I'm not surprised that there are attacks on Biden. I think it's disturbing when they're equal to or greater than most of the time linguistically than they're, if you look at what they name their videos and that kind of stuff, then the attacks on Trump. I think that's indicative of a character issue. That being said, they're welcome to be the Biden show. I think HuffPost spends a lot of time patting itself on the back for being effectively the woman's candidate network, but not in a pro-woman's candidate way, but being in an anti-male candidate way. And specifically, that's why they go after Biden. This is part of the old white man meme that they go with, as if there's no difference between people of a color and of an age group and of a gender. Like if that's the fight we end up making, that you can make pejoratives about people based on their color, their age, and their gender. You either can or you can't, and I refuse to. I'm not going to play into that. I will occasionally, like in the Freedom Caucus, the Republicans, I call them the Freedom Caucasians because they have no one in their small group
60 seconds.
That isn't exactly like them. But that's very different than saying all people of an age, of a race, of a gender are evil, bad, not deserving of being heard, all that kind of stuff. That plays right into the Republican hands. It just it spoon feeds them talking points. They salivate every time HuffPost puts out one of those articles. I was 100% in the rank for Swalwell now. The rest of the Swall heads have nothing. I can't tell if you're being ironic, Driftglass. I do like Eric Swalwell a lot. I think he's a really good man. He's a good guy. And there's a bunch of other options where everybody's solid. Bernie Bro holdouts were idiots, blue no matter who, only way. Yeah, well.
This is Ron Calgill.
And this is Robbie Earhart.
And you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
That's a lot to say. Why doesn't he just say the Hal Sparks Show? I mean
that's much simpler, isn't it?
I know. We're a Mighty House radio show. That's easy.
Yes, and one of us can get sued by Mighty Mouse at some point, and it's not going to be me. So there you go, Mighty House. It's more like Fighty House. What's going on? So, and Devin, I don't know if we have other callers, but I wanted to make a point about this this idea of how people in the Democratic Party and on the stages at these Democratic debates go. Male to female, race to race, in the Democratic Party, we are a party of equality and respect. So when anybody is talking to anybody else on that stage, I believe personally, and if you want to disagree with me, bring it, that they are doing it from a point of equal respect. That while I don't think if Biden was annoyed and said something condescending to Cory Booker, that he would be doing it based on skin color. The perception is that he would, and that's the reason why he may not be speaking in an equal circumstance in this idea. So one of the things that came up, like Zerlina Maxwell, who I love, who's on MSNBC a bunch or whatever, there was a couple of storylines about Harris being overconfident, and she, I saw a bunch of tweeting about this back and forth. She came at it from the angle that this was a derogatory term racially towards Harris because of other derogatory racial terms that you could line up with it, and that the people who were asserting this were somehow diminishing Harris based on her race and her gender. When in reality, it seemed that she was what most of them were referring to in using overconfident was that while she was going after Biden, she got flanked by Tulsi Gabbard, who really came hard for her on her prosecutorial record, which is an opening she has, which, by the way, she's going to have to address in a debate going forward no matter what. So it shouldn't be that big a surprise it gets thrown her way, and better sooner than later, quite frankly. If it's done right now, it'll be considered. There's an asked and answered category that a lot of things go into, that a lot of candidates, while we've been gestating, the people who watch the debates and are engrossed in them and are paying a lot of attention, the vast majority of voters, when they hear asked and answered about an issue, that's it. They don't even need to hear the answer, right? Carrie in our chat room saying Zerlina was right about this and Ellen Pompeo refused to listen via Twitter. I saw that exchange and I respectfully disagree. I think what Ellen Pompeo was saying was that she was overconfident. in that she was, while she in a field that was attacking each other, where there was a bunch of back and forth, she got flanked by Tulsi Gabbard because she was so busy going after Biden. That can happen to anyone. That, any of these candidates can find themselves in a situation of overconfidence as far as their status and their position and their success based on the last time. So a lot of people in debates do a great showing in a debate, and then they come in to the next debate thinking they've got a glide path, and they don't. So again, do I think this is deserving of all the wailing and gnashing of teeth? Absolutely not. Do I think Ellen Pompeo is a sexist, racist TERF who means well, and who ultimately is confused about her goals as for the Democratic Party? Absolutely not. And the assertion that she does is incredibly dangerous because, again, this is what I would call the Charlotte effect. When the Nazis marched in Skokie years ago, one of the great stories that we talk about sometimes is how it was handled, is that nobody showed up. You shut your windows. Some people hung ribbons outside their windows as a kind of go away, but nobody paid attention because you didn't want them to make, you didn't want to make them think they were more important than they are, right? That you don't want them to. There's always this classic comedic cop scene where a lone police officer with a megaphone is standing outside of a place where we're like, "Come out, we've got you surrounded," and there's no one there. But if you can, while one friend runs around smacking the branches against the windows to try and make them think that there's somebody around every corner of the house or whatever, when there's really only one person there. That's what occurs when we make monsters of people who are not. Because what you do is if you spend your time making allies into evil, the evil is never harmed by it. And they feel like there's more of them. You are shoving those folks into their side, and Carrie in our chat room saying that Ellen is uninformed and that's all. She thinks she knows more than she does. She just needs to listen. Well, the issue that I would have with that is that the listening part of it didn't come from you need to listen. Those words are uncomfortable for people, or people can mishear you. That wasn't the language that was used. It was, this is equal to other pejorative terms, and therefore your behavior is negative, is damaging, is intentionally so, or wanton disregard, which is very, which is the same. You're accusing someone of, depraved indifference. Like, I wouldn't call you a child murderer, but you seem like the kind of person who would leave a child in a hot car. There's not a difference between those types of statements. And if we're talking about listening, or we're talking about understanding, there is a distinction there. And if we spend our time fighting amongst ourselves and creating enemies out of allies, it's on us when Trump takes the White House again. Because that's all this does. And that there is listening that needs to be done in that area. And it's funny for me to police two women listening to each other. It seems odd, in today's modern climate, that separation be necessary. But then the same thing, occurred with the Squad and Nancy Pelosi, and that was easily weaponized as well. So that, this is a factor. And we've got callers on the line. Let me grab somebody right now. Who do we have there, Devin? I think Ike's in there. But
Ike up in South Carolina. Right
on. Ike, welcome.
Yeah, hey, Al. Thanks to Carl in the chat room, I figured out how to actually send money. And
I appreciate you super chatting today. That was really a sweet thing to do, brother. Hey,
bro.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to becoming a Patreon when I figure out how to do that.
Thank you. It can be a complicated process, but I appreciate it. Yeah.
You know how it is with us old guys.
Sure.
But I'll figure it out. I just want to settle something,
Mm-hmm.
You can call it progressive, you can call it liberal, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But surprisingly enough, I'm in line with Cardi B.
Okay.
We need to get back to our roots. We are the FDR party.
Yep.
We are the party that saved this country. We are the party that continues to save this country. And every time this garbage comes up, whether it's, I don't care whether it's busing or that the stuff they're throwing at Biden, the one thing that really burns me up is that crime bill.
Yeah.
Now, you have to put that crime bill in perspective. Everybody remembers what was going on in this country in that crime bill. And if I was, when that crime bill came about, and if I was Biden, I would have said it just like it was. Oh, you're talking about the Republican legislation that the Congress passed to try to deal with the problem, the overrunning of our cities and our streets because of cocaine and crack cocaine that conveniently enough was being flooded into this country so a certain Republican president could buy arms for a private war, which was completely unconstitutional in the first place. Okay? You know, let's go with some other examples. Let's go with, you hate the trade deals? Oh, you're talking about NAFTA? You're talking about the trade deal that Ronald Reagan envisioned that was negotiated underneath George H.W. Bush and signed by George H.W. Bush.
That's
that
right.
Later was signed after the Republican Congress passed it by Bill Clinton, which, by the way, if you've forgotten, Bill Clinton actually went through a shutdown of the government because he was trying to negotiate protections for workers and unions in that agreement, and along with environmental protections, and the Republicans wouldn't go along with it. Okay, we need to start bringing some truth out here, and that's not what we're bringing. And when it comes to immigration, it's straight up one easy, simple, straight up answer. We are the law and order party. We believe in we believe in a fair, functional immigration system.
Yep.
And we believe in the rule of law. When it comes to handgun violence, you'll get 10, you'll get 20 years if I catch you with a weapon that you're not supposed to have. If you use it in commission of a crime, you'll do 20 years.
Yep.
We're going to start bringing the pain, you know, and we're going to bring some sense to this mess and be, you know, it's like you say, you got to boil it down to a bumper sticker, but you got to stick with it every time. And the thing that we're not doing, which I'm getting sick of these damn Republicans that they keep doing, is they always seem to work into any discussion, anything that comes up, and particularly when you criticize the Republicans, they will turn it around, and the next thing you know, they're talking about those radical socialist Democrats. Well, you know what? We need to start saying those radical fascist Republicans. We need to start tagging them with their fascist, authoritarian, vulture capitalist system garbage that they've been pushing on us ever since Ronald Reagan. You want to know why you don't have a pension anymore? Because of leveraged buyouts. Who passed that?
Right.
That was the Republicans.
Right.
You want to know why you don't have unions anymore? It's because of the Republicans. They don't want to have that.
There are no democratic right to work states.
Hasn't been raised in 10 years. It's because of the Republicans. And by the way, you bring up Obama, let me tell you something. We had 70 days of total control by a thin margin. And that's including with that mansion beehole there in West Virginia and that Ben what's-his-face out there in Nebraska that we had to deal with. We had 70 days of complete control, and after that, he got stonewalled the rest of the time he was there by abusing the rules of the Senate and by Mitch McConnell. And if Moscow Mitch and his wife, who was on the take and making stock money off of her position in this government, and all these other people, the Mercers, Steve
the
Bannon,
Sacklers,
and the list is so long you can't stand it. If we can't do something about these people, then you know where the real problem lies. It's law and order. The Justice Department is out of whack. We need to see rich people frog marched, and we need to see justice brought to the power structure, the same justice they put on me for stealing a steak because I'm hungry.
Right. Yeah, the disparity there, I think, is only addressed by the Democratic Party, and what in doing so, we constantly get this pushback that we're somehow loose about those things because we want parity in cocaine versus crack sentencing. We want the people who, you know, the Enron people of the world to get similar sentences to people who are getting, or holding up liquor stores and whatnot, because people die because of Enron's actions as well, if not more people. And so and again, environmental regulations, all in line with the mitigatory factor that they have with the average taxpayer. If a taxpayer has to pay for the cleanup of a company, then that company's profits are illegitimate, because they wouldn't exist if you hadn't dumped a bunch of stuff in the river. And if you can't do your business without dumping stuff in the river or pay to clean it up, you're not a profitable system. Therefore, Democrats aren't corporatist for being for corporations that provide a service, make a profit, and employ people normally. Where the Republicans are corporatist because they think that those kind of companies are the exact same thing as a coal company with no protection for its workers, with no gates on their coal sleuth areas that dump it into the river and make Appalachia unlivable.
Look at those poor coal guys that are out there right now. They're not going to get paid.
Nope.
The creditors will get paid, but they won't get their money. And by the way, let's take a line from George H.W. Bush. Let's try this. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
We're compassionate capitalists.
Yeah.
That's who we are. We're the capitalists that have
I think that's a Warren phrase that could win. Right.
And that's also why, just so you know, I don't care who you're going to vote for or whatever. I just know that I'm going to vote blue, and I don't give a damn from dog catcher all the way up the line.
Yep.
But I'm going to tell you somebody I want to see on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
I want Tom Steyer in there.
All right.
I want to hear from him because I know there was an outfit called Hands on America.
Mm-hmm.
I volunteered after Katrina down in Mississippi. This guy, the billionaire, Republican billionaire, was down there. We were rehabbing all these poor folks' houses for him and stuff.
Right.
And I finally met him one night, and I said, "Why is it you're a Republican? Why are you doing this?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said because I believe in doing the right thing, and I love sticking my finger in these greedy bastards that I know that are trying to take this property and do what they're doing, and I'm going to put a stop to it. So you know what? Just because they got a lot of money doesn't mean they're bad people.
Right.
And Tom Steyer has been working his ass off for the Democratic Party for a long time. Y'all need to look at him.
I agree. I appreciate the call. We went way over the break, but because it's Ike, we love that. And thank you for calling in today. And thanks for the super chat and just being in the chat, brother. I was so happy when you just made it into the chat, knowing how technologically averse you are at certain times. That means a lot. And everybody in the chat room today, especially, thank you guys for joining us all the time. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for all that kind of stuff. We got one more segment when we come back or whatever, and I think we might have another caller on the line. I want to get to them. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. The idea that all these billionaires are villains is a Republican talking point. How do you like that? This is what I would explain. And A. Smith says there's no more billionaire. I don't know what that more billionaire. No more billionaires. I got news for you. In a world with 8 billion people, you're going to have billionaires. The question is, and by the way, you're financing these billionaires with every purchase you make and every service you buy. So it matters. Vote with your dollar. Super important. And the idea that all billionaires are cut from the same cloth plays right into the Republicans' hands. Of the Democrats hate success. And that scares a lot of people. And it kind of should. If it was real, it should scare them. It's not true, but it works that way because this idea that we don't think anybody deserves to make that much money, no matter what service or benefit they give to society. Just billionaires that buy political influence or chairs in Congress. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Have billionaires, knock yourself out, but you don't get to give to Congress
60.
or thank you or the Senate or anybody any more than anybody else does. Across the board, I think not only should we get dark money out, But I think bundling should be illegal. So, Stire's asking for money, right? Pay your way in like that Hickenlooper. You have to be on the debate stage, Smith. He has to have 130,000 individual donors. He can't just pay his way in. It's not the same thing. And it's why Hickenlooper will not make it into the next one. Is Jerry's a billionaire? Jerry's Deli or Ben and Jerry? Ben and Jerry are millionaires. They're multimillionaires. Eddie Bauer, yeah. De Blasio's line in the debate, I'm going to tax the hell out of the rich, which he said twice, was not a smart talking point. Making people pay their fair share is. I agree, Paul. Do we have another call, Devin? Or no? I couldn't hear you, but
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
Right on.
Yay!
Yay! Do we have another call in there? I don't want to.
Yes, we have A_Smith from the chat room.
Oh, okay. A Smith's in the chat room. Right on. Okay, good. We were just having a discussion during the break, so that's perfect. Hey, A, what's your first name?
Hi.
All right. What should I call you?
I go by Annie.
Annie. Okay, cool.
So
Okay.
I've liked you and your stuff since finding you on Steph's show way back. But
I appreciate it.
I've come to find out that you guys are talking about all these things I totally agree with, but the one candidate that has put forth a plan, and not the only candidate, but the one that covers all of this is Bernie Sanders, and I find that.
As does Warren. I mean, hold on. Wait. Yeah, I appreciate you liking Bernie stuff, and I really do. But you certainly can't say that.
Liking Bernie or liking Warren. It's about what policies actually line up with what is best for the country.
Well, I mean, of all the candidates, the one who has the most policy positions articulated is Elizabeth Warren. I mean, Biden would be a close second, I would argue.
No. Biden is way not even up there. I mean, the things that he hasn't said one policy program that he actually wants to put forth. I can't think of a single thing. And you can look that up, because the reason is because he's riding on the fact that people know his name, and he's happy that he was, Obama's vice president. And look, I don't hate Biden.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think he has anything to give to the country. All of his policies are from like the 1950s. He has to be in a cabinet position somewhere where he can do what he's good at, which is raise morale and be a boost toward basically the Democratic Party. He needs to get out votes. I don't want him in a leadership role because I really just don't. Look, this isn't about Biden, okay? This isn't about people. This is about a system. It's terribly corrupt. And even with Donald Trump, it's not like I hate the guy because he's ugly or I hate him because he's, like a Cheeto or whatever. The guy has bad policies that hurt people. He is racist, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So all of those things make him unpalatable to me. Whereas a person like Bernie Sanders, for instance, has never told women that they shouldn't be in the workforce. He has been a leader since his early days, and even Cornel West, who is a leader in the black community, has agreed that Sanders is the only candidate who really speaks to the needs of the needy. So when we're making fun
again,
of him
I think that leaves Warren. I think that leaves Warren out to dry in a lot of ways, because I do think she's
good, but her foreign policy has been. I'm sorry, it's just not a very good global policy because she's still for intervention in Venezuela. She hasn't come out against.
Well, to be fair, Sanders wasn't for intervention in Rwanda, and that was that was one of the areas where I think from a U.S. and UN strategy point, millions of lives could have been saved, and not in an imperialist intervention type of situation. And oftentimes
he wasn't against going into Rwanda for the reasons where he thought we shouldn't just intervene. It was because he was against the idea of regime change as part of our policy.
There wasn't a policy of regime. Well, in Rwanda, it was a genocide. And if you're not aware of,
it was a genocide.
Yeah.
No, I'm fully aware. I'm fully aware.
If you're not I don't know how you. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to parse out each of these pieces because there's a lot to break down here, and I want to address them part by part because I respect what you're saying. I just want to, in each of these, there's no circumstance where
I'm not against Warren. Warren is
right.
my second pick. Okay?
Right. Okay.
I'm fully on board, and basically, my argument here is that when we're getting into this sort of who's gonna tag team up against Cory Booker versus Joe Biden, these guys. All right, Cory Booker, without his vote, that's the reason why we don't have the ability to negotiate Medicare drug prices. He is in the pocket of pharma in that case. Mm-hmm. That's bad. And even if he comes out now and says, oh, I'm so sorry, that's just not good enough. Kamala Harris has problems too, which have been addressed. And unfortunately, they came from, in my opinion, a bad faith actor like Tulsi Gabbard, who isn't on the left. Her and Andrew Yang are complete red herrings. Mm-hmm. They're not actually left because Yang wants to do a UBI and then get rid of Social Security. Mm-hmm. So he's a snake in the grass about that. And then Tulsi, I'm sorry, but she has way too many Russian bots backing her up online, and I don't trust that either.
I agreed. I would say well, and by the way, Bernie had a ton of Russian bots supporting him in the last election cycle and during the primary season as well. That didn't negate necessarily some of his ideas.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that he was actually like feeding them. I mean, he was most.
Oh, there were members of his campaign that absolutely were, and it was a running issue, and you'll be in the chat room so we can address this.
Pretending.
Yeah. We're almost out of time, so I want. No, I appreciate it. I wanted to give you time to speak to this.
Get out there and vote for policies over, not people, policies. Not
go to
people.
Honestly, I would say go to. Right, I appreciate that.
More individual donors than any other person by far. So,
and I would say Warren's number of plans and on Biden's website he breaks down all of his stuff. I wouldn't argue that those are all from the 1950s. Especially when it comes to healthcare and education, which are two big primary areas. I personally think everybody up there in general, of course, is superior to who's there. Yeah. But writing them off as saying the only one that does this or whatever is the issue, is where I take issue. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much, Devin. Thank you, everybody. Stick around for the post show if you're watching on the YouTube channel. Otherwise, we'll see you next week with Johnny Million back with us and a special guest next week. We'll be back next week. Yeah. So, thanks, Devin. I'm signing off.
Thank you, Hal. Have a good one.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, brother. You got to do that before I start getting. So, A. Smith, I appreciate where you're coming from in that regard. It's okay. Don't, EO, no yelling. This is fine. We got time to bicker, but when, I'm just saying. For example, and it's funny because bringing this stuff up, and as a supporter of Bernie and all that kind of stuff, I'm for you being supportive of his policies over other people's. That's fine. The issue I have is with the assertion that means by no means do anyone else have plans or actually have a strategy for those plans to come to fruition. That's the issue I have. It's the absolutism that goes with it, and I find this happens more with Bernie followers than almost anybody. I suppose there's some Yang Gang folks that are the same way, but I'm not going to articulate all of these things, but Biden is actually calling for the immediate passage of the Safe Justice Act, which is, goes from front-end sentencing reform to back-end releasing policies. The Biden plan will also go further, preventing crime, providing opportunities for all, offering second chances, reducing violence in communities, supporting survivors of violence, eliminating racial disparities in sentencing, ensuring fair sentences. None of that's 1950s. Again, you can say it's not enough or it's not equal to what Bernie's doing, which it almost is identical, by the way. And there's a lot of identical policy across the board in there. But I will say, that there's so much in this that is not particularly indicative of a male candidate, of a white candidate, of an old candidate, of a conservative, of a Republican talking point, that it doesn't have overlap with Bernie and Warren and all these. There's actually a huge commonality in policy. And a lot of it boils down to, and why this election cycle is boiling down to, is actually how you would implement it. So there you go. Biden has a lot more problematic stuff in his past, way more than any other candidate. No. That's because he's older. That's just ageism, Carrie. Yeah, and I think that's exactly the point. Can't stop lying. Can't hate on her for calling in and wanting this. That's never any of my problem with it. Truman Democrats? No, but it's his votes. Gotcha. Yeah, I think this is, Brad, that statement alone is having a lot of effect on it. And interestingly enough, like when we were talking about listening to voters, and having that be a factor, Biden is so far ahead with black voters, like huge swath of them, that that some of the denigration against him would fall into the category of not listening to that voting bloc. You're convinced that I don't like any of your opinions? That's not true. I've agreed with a bunch of them over time. I just don't like it when you're draconian and dismissive of people based on race or gender or sex, and think it's okay one direction because I think it feeds the right-wing machine. And just like I said earlier, And like I said, I have very low tolerance for turning allies into monsters. It's different than just saying, I prefer this person. Why are you so defensive of Joe Biden? Because so many people are so offensive towards him. So POTUS should be in their 50s, not 70s. See, that's interesting, because that would have disqualified Hillary. And I also think we're entering a situation where people in their 70s are not like people in their 70s in the 50s were, for example. That's wishful thinking. Joe isn't even going to be a factor in a month. That's not even, yeah. I mean, unless you know something, WikiLeaks is coming down and that they think that's going to knock him off the thing. That won't be the case. I think it's excellent point, Richard. Ice Cube once said, "You better check yourself before you wreck yourself." This is it's clear. I think it's wise of all of us to do that. If he wasn't Canadian, I'd vote for our very own Tom Hebert. Well, I think we can vote for Tom just on the value of his ideas, regardless. So if you don't follow Tom, by the way, on Twitter, you should, because he's got a really good eye for a lot of articles and that kind of stuff. Joe is Joe's worst enemy. No, I would disagree. I like Biden unless I'm alone thinking this. That's the only way, right? I'm not buying into the ageism. I don't care. 70 days unlike 70s in the 1950s, for example, and 2019 people. That's right. I mean, like a lot of people who are 70 right now are still working on a contracted basis with their work after they hit mandatory retirement in a bunch of areas. So, vote for me. I'll set everything straight. There you go. You've been living in Germany, though, Julie. I don't know if they would trust you. That's the issue. You bought into the Bernie ageism pretty hard, Al? No. I was making a comparison to the ageism that gets thrown around. You know. But I don't hold his age against him. I've never held Bernie's age against him as far as whether or not I would vote for him or whether I think he deserves a vote. Yeah, the AARP thing was hilarious. He's over 65. That was funny. Doesn't mean I wouldn't vote for him. I'm not the one in here going, these are too old to be voted for. There's a difference between joking about someone's age and saying it is using it as a derogatory point. Yeah, I've referred to him as such. And I thought we were supposed to be the open-minded, accepting most party, but the chat evidence otherwise very disturbing way. It happens. I mean, that's what the difference between, you can have differences of opinion. Now I'm going back to watching both the Cubs and the White Sox play, thinking about my mom and enjoying some sushi. Well, that sounds like a great idea, Richard. I envy you, but having two games going at once, and which way do you lean? Because I might have to make a decision about your character. Yes. Okay, that's fine, but when I say Joe has 50s policies, you take that as ageism. No, I didn't take that part as ageism. I just disagreed with it. I literally went to sentencing reform and the fact that he wants education, the how schools are paid for, not based on zip code. I wouldn't call those 50s policies. Yeah, I turn 50 next month. I can join the AARP. I qualify for retirement and SAG because I joined when I was 16. Cheers, Ike. Thank you so much. 70-year-olds should retire and consult. That's a very blanket statement to make about people's age. Well, at least we can agree on baseball's okay, I suppose. Big difference between SCOTUS justice with time for deliberation and a president. As far as deciding quickly, that's possibly true. We all should have unions, like Bernie has said, by the way. I mean, I think which one of the Dems is anti-union? Does Yang qualify? I'm not quite sure. Because I think he's trying to put the Yang, his system would be in lieu of, but I wouldn't mean that he's against it. Yeah, Washington was president from when he was 58 to 66 in a time, by the way, when life expectancy was way lower and life was way harder as far as what medical interventions were available to you as well. Now is the time to push left. I don't know that that's the case. I think and most of the programs that are viewed as centrist Democratic Party are left policies comparatively. How many Dems are we up to with impeachment now? 120? Something like that. I was it 111? That was the last number I saw, but it might be up to 120 now. This is part of a strategy. They're looking at September 1st. They're going to go away at the break and go, we've heard from everybody over the break and we need to move to impeachment. Plus, the other side that's, groups is like, we're already engaged in an impeachment inquiry, all that kind of stuff. That you'll see two parallel tracks. $118. Thank you, Tom. Oh, we've got a disagreement. According to Tom, it's 118. According to Kathy B, it's 123. I don't know what our it's a majority now. And then that will be, I think that will be the tipping point towards a slope towards that. See, that was, and Pamela saying 119 last night. There you go. Yeah, Nadler, that's the case. Is Nadler saying it's already in progress, which it absolutely is. The difference is when they reach a point where they will need to officially open an impeachment inquiry or vote on an impeachment to have access to certain stuff if the White House pushes back against them versus the stuff they can get without doing it. So that's I'm a Cubby and my husband's a White Sox fan. Aw. You grew up on the north side, you grew up on the south side. And see, Kevin, proof the world can come together. Proof that we can all love each other in spite of our differences. I think Kevin's an example of us, of the true kumbaya nature of humanity. If a Cubs and a Sox fan can get together and fall in love, I think there's hope for us all. Yeah, Tom, it's interesting. Impeachment hearings are a great way to frame the election season on Trump's corruption. I agree. I mean, I think eating up a lot of camera time with them unraveling and exposing all of his corrupt practices, even the ones that, by the way, don't work their way into the direct impeachment charges, but just show a system of corrupt intent. Helps in the next election cycle, and again, if the Senate votes it down, then they live with that, and that's more reason to go, look, there's nothing these guys won't support him in doing, So, yeah, right now they can have many investigations by many committees once it voted on. Only Nadler's committee can do it. Yeah, they can. Yes, they have several things. Yeah, unless it's the Crosstown Classic, then look out. Yeah, that's always been an issue with towns or whatever. Nobody can hold a candle though to the UK Louisville split in Kentucky though, where you got the entire city of Lexington referring to Louisville as Loserville 98% of the year. So is it a majority in the House to impeach? It is a majority of the Republican or Democrats right now are for it. Yes, it just needs a simple majority to impeach as a vote. But most of them are not going to, just vote on it and do it. Yes, Senate has to. He has to be impeached in the House and tried in the Senate and found guilty of the same things to be. And I technically, no, he doesn't have to be, technically that doesn't remove him from office. It just means he's impeached, in both houses. The next move is the removal. And that's a separate motion. Yeah. Amy, I understand your frustration, but I don't do calls for violence or wishing harm on anybody in my chat room, just so you know. What is your honest opinion of bicameral system? You mean a two-party system, or you mean the House and the Senate? Because I think second and third choice voting would be immensely valuable for our elections in general. I have a real problem with senatorial control in terms of that the Senate can override a House vote, but a House vote has to be extraordinary to push back against the Senate when technically, to me, that's taxation without representation. Because if a state like Montana, which is like 1/6 the number of people who are in Los Angeles County, much less the state of California, still has 2 senators, and one of those senators can put an anonymous hold on a bill that the majority of the country is for, that is effectively, I believe, taxation without representation. I know it bicameral in terms of House and Senate. I just meant how she meant it, because sometimes people talk about our 2-party system the same way. So I don't mind the checks and balances, but the anonymous holds and a non-material filibuster is a problem. I believe a filibuster has value, but I think it only has value if one person has to stand there and talk the whole time, and it has to be on topic. It has to be about the actual bill that they're either stopping or the vote that they're stopping until such time as the vote can come back, so that they can convince everyone, because the entire point of a filibuster is one person going, this is so wrong, here's all the reasons why. You can't just stand up there and read the telephone book until you run out of time. That, I think, is wrong. Are anonymous holds constitutional? That, I don't know that there's been a test on whether they're constitutional or not, but they operate within the rules of the Senate, and the Senate can set its rules in those regard. I would argue that they would not stand up to a test, but the SCOTUS in its current form would argue standing. That's how they're destroying most liberal opposition to Republican positions, and like especially the president's current executive orders. They're arguing standing, like the wall funding thing. Big articles about how Supreme Court hands Trump a victory on wall funding, his ability to use Pentagon money to pay for sections of his wall. That is, I think, journalistic malfeasance. And in every stretch, if you look at what it was, they'd simply said that the people bringing the case did not have direct standing. So, that is a that's not a win on the policy. We've got there's another shooting in El Paso. Great. At a Walmart in El Paso. Active shooting, police in area. Oh. According to this, they have the shooter in custody. They said the scene is still active, but that's because they're clearing people and probably victims. And that let's see, shooting comes day after day. Oh, yeah, another Walmart in Memphis, which is so different from the Gilroy Garlic Festival thing, which I think you can directly tie to Trump's language. Yeah, Amy, you didn't upset me at all. If you're not. The abolition of the Senate is impossible. But rules about what constitutes a state insofar as representation in the federal government could shift. So you don't abolish the Senate. You just go, states that have a certain number of human beings in them can group together and share 2 senators that represent regional interests, perhaps. Yeah, I'm not angry about that stuff. Just don't wish ill on anybody physically. These have gotten so common, we don't argue about them, and we know what we all would say and just don't bother anymore. Yeah, I think that's the issue. The other thing, too, is in terms of what we call active shooters and mass shooters and the like, there's a huge difference between what are effectively dust-ups between people in arguments and what we refer to as mass shooters, or, you know, there are categorical differences, and therefore I think categorical differences in how you deal with them. You know, there are certain ones that in a country with a Second Amendment, you will never, ever, ever be able to stop, any more than they stop stabbings in China and Japan. There will be people who act out and take advantage of whatever weapon they have. It's the same thing with when people drive cars through areas. There's certain areas where you can keep track of people with terroristic belief systems, but, you know, and when they get into a country that is not their own for the sake of attacking the citizenry there, that's a totally different animal than you know, people within their walls deciding that they're going to, you know, sovereign citizen their way up, and, you know, whether they talk about it online or don't, and whether there are warning signs or whether there are not. Like, you know, while we are so focused so much on the warning signs leading up to a lot of these attacks, you know, the Vegas shooter, which was one of, you know, I think the worst ever, didn't have any of those warning signs, right? And still afterwards, there's been no direct, you know, philosophical or political reason for that. The goal has to be twofold. One is availability of mass ammo and quick purchases of guns, so that if you're impulsive in your purchase of a gun, there's some control on this. And if you've got a long-term plan to go after people, and, you know, you're staging an attack, there's an awareness that comes up through ATF or one of these other groups that if you're just building you're stockpiling ammo, there's some way that has to be, you know, you can become aware of that. Whereas I would say the argument is made for wellness visits in those circumstances. You know, like, hey, you know, you're allowed to have this kind of ammo because we're a free country, but we've noticed you've been stacking a bunch, and we're just going to kind of knock on your door and see if everything's all right in there. You know, that shouldn't be, you know, without warrant. You know what I mean? You need a warrant for it. But what I'm saying is it shouldn't be that weird. Meanwhile, there's the difference between, you know, workplace shooters, people disenfranchised, angry, you know, what used to be referred to as going postal, you know, is a different animal as well. And that, you know, obviously there's been mitigatory factors over the last few decades that, you know, seek to deal with that, and how people are fired, and you know, the package someone gets when they're let go, and layoffs, and how those things are handled. They, you know, companies are more aware of that. If not, that doesn't mean they're more sensitive to it, but it's definitely a part of it. And then, of course, there's what effectively are the modern lazy serial killer, the person who doesn't kill a volume of human beings over a period of months or years, but they do it in one fell swoop, and then either stick around for the fame or do themselves in when they're confronted with the impact of their actions. And that's there. It is, in many ways, it's like the homelessness issue. If you try to deal with it in one fell swoop, it allows the people who are you know, advocates to assume that you're trying to paint with too broad a brush and eliminate certain levels of freedoms and or vilify innocent groups. And in the homelessness issue, you have the mental illness world where people are literally biologically, genetically schizophrenic, bipolar, whatever, and have just had a hard time holding on, going to a failing system that way. People who are drug addicted to the point of mental illness, and then people who have simply fallen economically through the cracks and can benefit from jobs programs and those kind of things. And if you try to handle homelessness based on that one idea, which most time that happens, you won't solve any of it. There you go. Oh, there you go. Or it's going to get much worse. Trump is really amping up his base. They're going to react violently and think they're completely in the right. We had a similar situation. You're not wrong, Ginger. We had a similar situation with this during Reagan with the right-wing militias in Michigan. Remember the rise up of those folks? This is just more lone actors, and that's what makes it scary for a lot of people, is that it's aimless and based on introversion and depression. So but again, you can't deal with it. It's not a one-stop shop solution for these things, Baltimore. Yeah, the interesting thing about, Baltimore is that it is indicative of the challenges put forth by urban centers across the country, which is on the one hand real investment in an attempt by the people who live there, who love the city, to reinvest and build the economic and cultural support of the city, while at the same time dealing with the fact that a lot of cities initially, especially the older ones, were built around industries that either no longer exist or moved. And that, that can gut the politics of it. Oh, thank you so much, Julie. Wow. I appreciate that. I try. It can be, thankless on occasion, but bless you for that. And it's always good to see you here. I always, on those days when you can't be here, I'm like, oh, she's at the pyramids or something. It's kind of amazing. So, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, and she's in dollars. Where are you? That's right. Does that mean you're in the United States? Wow. Oh, I see. Right. I see. Yes. We know the VPN well. Yeah. See, I am mega worldwide. My viewers have to use VPNs. Yes, we do. And not only is Julie in here super chatting and supporting on Patreon, but she's also one of our moderators and stuff. So I greatly appreciate that. Secret agent VPN. Tom, that might be the crux of you joining in on some of these things. I don't know if you need a VPN being up in Canada. So there you go. Thank you, Can't Stop Lying. So, I mean, and I've done stand-up in Baltimore. I've dealt with a bunch of issues there. Both good and bad. It's a city that's been through a lot, and there you go. Julie. Amos back from quick. This is true. Julie is great with the Twitter follow. She can't retweet her stuff sometimes. I'm not quite sure what the rule is there. I don't know why that is, but there you go. Oh, yeah, that's hilarious. You had to have VPN for Netflix, or you watch nothing but German shows, right? Which can be very awkward, this types of things, Your smartphone security system keeps urging you to get a VPN. I have 3 because when I was in China, they would block the VPNs, 3 different directions. So, did we lose Carrie? Did she just leave entirely? Is she convinced that all I heard last was that I hate her ideas, and then she's just gone? How can you retell what's going on at Raw Story? Yeah, well, David K. Johnson has started working over there, and I like him a lot, and it drew more attention. And my problem with Raw Story is that they foment racial division, even when they mean well, and sometimes I wonder if they do, and it concerns me, because they have this habit of making it look like we live in a nothing but whites against black society, and we just don't. And I don't believe in giving white supremacists any more credence or support than they have or think they have, I think it's wrong. You know what I mean? You don't make these people think there are more people on their team, right? And so it's the way they frame their articles and especially their headlines. People need to see how many times the cops attack people. I'm not saying you don't put those stories up, but if you're making it look like on balance that's the majority of the time, you're endangering lives. If you make it so that if you ever make a situation falsely where a black person feels like they can't call the cops because their life is in danger when it isn't the case, and that person dies, that's on that. That's on you. And that's a scary thought. You do not let people, an ally does not let a person feel like they have more enemies than they naturally do. It is a terrible, terrible thing to do. So, Trump stable genius. Jamie is on point with his use of emoticons and getting around the language limitations in the chat room. Well played. I feel like I have to make it larger so people can see what they actually are. There it is. It's as big as I can get it. Are you going to talk about Masons? Yeah, I'll talk about Masons at some point. As a matter of fact, I want to do a whole separate stream about that at some point from my Masonic Lodge. I just, when I was in Atlantic City last week, we flew in and out of Philly because it's a lot easier and cheaper and easy. It's just smoother flying through there. And the Philly Grand Lodge, the main lodges there are all in one building downtown. There's this huge statue of Ben Franklin in there, which is fantastic. And there's one outside of Ben Franklin giving George Washington his first apron, which is incredible. And they have George Washington's apron in there in a sealed case. It's gorgeous. But they still call it a temple. And I'm a big fan of calling it a temple because of what it means for horse scheisse. Yeah, right. It's a term of reverence, whereas lodge sounds like we're going skiing. That's my own personal thing. Can you watch video inside the secret clubhouse? Oh, can you video inside the secret clubhouse? Yes, not during lodge though. So I would do it just from where we have dinner. Yeah. A cop friend told me some of those more unstable white supremacists think Trump will pardon if they attack the left. Yeah. And they need to know that's not the case. And you're going to jail. And that story, when they do go to jail for that stuff, needs to be news. Nothing sacred in their temple? Really? What do you mean? My hubby's from Scranton, but while in Phil, he's see Barnes Foundation. All right. Cool. And so random. It was really cool. We're in Philly, and I'm coming. We're flying back to Vegas last night, and it's our last day. I didn't have a show last night, so we fly through Philly, and I took my son and my mom on the tour of the big Masonic Hall in Philly, and there's this there's 8 people on the tour, lady with a camera, general kind of stragglers and whatever. And this black guy, really sweet, hanging around. And at one point, he kind of let me know he was a fellow traveler, as it were. And turns out he belongs to a lodge here in Henderson, Nevada, just randomly. Like, it was so cool. And so I'm going to go visit with them. He's going to get he just got his 3rd degree. He's got his proficiency to do and all this stuff. It was just really cool. And so anyways, I'm going to go join them for dinner. I want to think your lodge is like the show Lodge 47. Great job. We're Lodge 42. It's not far off there. Except their lodge is a lot whiter than ours. How you're very uplifting, and I can just sit and listen all day. Voices of, oh, well, thank you, Amy. I try, It's often been said, I have a voice and a face for radio. King David, I was in the bathroom and I heard someone say blacks against white earlier. Did I miss the race war? If so, who won? It was a draw, turns out. So we just all went back to our collective corner where the lizards can liquefy us equally. But yeah, it was incredibly small planet. It'd be okay to find out that this other guy who was in the group was also from and if I had asked but it was the one guy that we kind of gravitated next to, was standing close to each other and talking or whatever. Now, I'm a known entity, so it's entirely possible he's like, oh wait, that's Hal Sparks. Holy smokes. I think he's a Mason. That kind of stuff. I wish people knew how important the work I'm doing with the Legacy Project here in Chicago is for society. Well, here's one way. Ladies and gentlemen, the work that Carrie Maxwell is doing for the Legacy Project in Chicago is very important for society. How about that? Is that clear enough? I can't do everything, but I can at least do that. I mean, to get donations so we can thrive, Hal. Well, I didn't know that part. Stages, baby steps, Carrie. How do you turn a positive into a negative so quickly? I was trying to help. Oh, we don't have grant money and big money donors here. We do have Patreon people and the like or whatever. So if you follow us on Patreon, I don't know if there's a Patreon for them or any of those other sources. I'm personally trying to grow the Patreon support for our show here so that we can turn it into something. Because like I said, man, I watch with annoyed envy at how the right wing has taken hold of YouTube and all these other areas, and they didn't do it by accident, and they did it by just grabbing the shirt collar of the individual funding and the people who are out there who care about their issues, and they monetized it, and they were able to use those funds to improve their circumstance and the quality of what they were doing, which is exactly what I'm trying to do, which is why I've started pushing the Patreon this year, which is why I'm so thankful that you guys have joined in on this. It means a lot across the board for you guys. Hold on, I'm going to open one thing on because my iPad died. That we currently have 60 patrons. We lost one, but still doing pretty good. My goal is 100. What? That's weird. Did somebody get into my Patreon, move something around? What happened? Hold on. Log in, because that's off. That's curious. What's happening? Let's try to see what's happening here. That was odd. Hold on. Checking something there. Okay. That concerns me. A little bit of monkey muck around there. It's a little hard to tell sometimes if it's just an error, but it's curious. Okay. But either way, we've got 60 subscribers, and it's a huge step forward. The purloined Patreon, it happens. Yes. Thank you, Sandra. And this is... I gotta know. Okay. It always you do these. A lot of times they'll do these. Verification things like somebody tried to log in from you got junk in there, no mail in there. That's all right. And it's a curious aspect. I mean, I appreciate that they do that. Sometimes it can be a bit of a pain in the butt. But better to have that redundancy exist than not. Send that again. All right, I'll just do it in here. It just changed one of the details on there, which was curious, and I don't know if it looks like a typo or something, but it isn't there. Let's see. Check this out. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's just something odd on the website. All right, good. Okay, everything's normal. So 60, we got 60 patrons right now, which, considering we had 6 at the beginning of the year, that's a huge step forward. And I greatly appreciate everybody who's come on. As a matter of fact, we got, in terms of the new folks, let's see. We got a couple people coming in. Jonathan and Mary Jane and Peter. And those of you who haven't gotten, Lord Dracul did that. Don't make my password. Oh, now you tell me. What? Look, all right. Now she's got a VPN. She knows everything about technology. Clearly. Thank you, World According to Briggs. That's awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you for being a super chatter. Look at that. Well, I appreciate it. I don't know if this is that's your website and this is a promotional act, or you've been with us under a different name. That's awesome. But in terms of so Lord Dracul actually became one of our pledgers, and so did Lindsay and Michael Gallagher, which I appreciate. And then of course Amos and Femi both upped their 5 to 10, which was really sweet. And a bunch of them keep coming and going, but we lost one $50 pledge in there because I think somebody just did that once. You don't have to do the big ones unless you're a crazy Uber supporter, and if you are, I love you for it. But literally the $5 and $10 level is totally fine. I'm just trying to get the volume of it up because that also has an effect on our availability on Patreon, our viability on YouTube, the case we can make about the show there, as opposed to just me doing me. Like if I put out a bunch of Lab Rats videos, they'll spike, but that's not what I'm trying to do. So we need a canned drum sound for Amy. Like that. I can do that. Probably. Briggs. How you deserve all the happiness in the world because of the happiness you spread around. Ah, thanks, Amy. I appreciate that. That's very sweet. How lovely of you. I try. Really, let's see. I have to. Let's see. I have to do. I'm doing these once a month shows, and I've been enjoying improvising those sets so much, and I did so much improvising at the Atlantic City shows that I think we might be witnessing a corner I'm turning stand-up wise that I'm very excited about. So, oh man. Amos, is that 18 at the Walmart in El Paso? Cripes. Where do fish keep their money? At the riverbank. All right. Simmer down. I don't have a fart sound. I have to get one from Steph, I suppose. How's getting the band back together? The band never was not together, but we're playing more. There you go. Put that up. Carrie Maxwell announcement. Support the work I'm doing with the Legacy Project. LegacyProjectChicago.org. There you go. Get that up on there. See? There you go, Carrie. LegacyProjectChicago.org, everybody. There you go. There. Fine. Carrie, you think I hate all your ideas? There. How do you like that? How was that fish bank joke, Sullivan? No, it was not. Yeah, I don't know what the story is, Julie, at this point. So, yeah, it's rough. Somebody said, go ahead and hack my accounts as if a burglar broke into the house and I stole the trash. It's showing the story in Texas. Okay. Not at all, Kansas Blind. You're mad solid. We need a Davenport bank so Hal can store all of his money in that bank because he's the greatest man in the world. This is in fact true. This is the one indisputable thought that's been presented in today's show. Thank you for being here today. I am Michael Caine, and I support Hal Sparks and everything that he does. Mark Twain. I don't know why I felt like doing Michael Caine, but why not? Yeah, so if you're in the LA area, I'm doing a monthly residency at Flappers in Burbank. The next one is this one's actually at 7:30, Can't Stop Lying, but since it's the opening night, I will be there glad handing. If you're a Patreon subscriber, we'll be getting together before that one early, which will be super fun. Very excited about it. That's next Sunday. Saturday in Santa Barbara doing a show. Sunday, Burbank, and then after I'm done, I get to hop in a car and drive back to see Summer because her birthday is the next day. August 12th is her birthday. If you feel like wishing her a happy birthday, that's the day to do it. German urban legend and the Harry Carey stuff is some of the funniest kind. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Those are a lot of people go straight to the sweet tea stuff and Chud's gonna jump in my lap and it's gonna hurt. Here she comes. Come on, Chud, you can do it. Come on. Don't hit your head. Oh, there you go. Okay, good. Yeah, you're good. You're okay. Oh, this is the first time she jumped in my lap without throwing claws in my legs. But at the same time, I'm like, just turn around. Rotate your big old butt around, Chud. There you go. Hold on. See the tail? There you go. Want to say hi to everybody? Hi. Are you going to full purr? She's part bird. Yeah. When are you going on Stephanie's show? I think it'd be the one thing that keeps Trump, gets Trump impeached. I think so. This Wednesday is tough. I might try to do it Thursday. It's not technically a hump day, but we will see. It's not a milestone, Julie, not like mine is anyways. Let's see. Yeah. So either it'll probably be a week from Wednesday that I'll be on Steph's if we can work it out. They book all kinds of people, so. Oh my God, Chud is digging her claws into she missed me while I was in Atlantic City, so oh my God, she's clawing into my leg. Hold on. Chud, they want to say hi to you. Hold on. I know you got claws in my That's good. There you go, baby. There you go. Oh, yeah. That's not a calming noise for everybody. Mm-hmm. There we go. Oh, she's in my shirt. You got your we got to clip your claws a little bit. We got to cut those down, Chud, because holy smokes. Man. What are you doing for yours? That week's a lot of shows. I got a show on the Sunday. I got a show on the Monday. I got a show on the Tuesday. There's a Wednesday, and then Wednesday's my actual birthday, and then I'm seeing Kiss. The real birthday thing I'm doing for me that isn't a big show or that kind of stuff is that I'm gonna go see Kiss on the 26th, day after my birthday. So that's the big one. That's the big gift for myself for that one. But and then I'm taking Camden. So yeah, to see him. And I told him that he was going to go see Kiss, and we're going to go backstage and see them and say hi. And he was like, I'm nervous. It was adorable. So cute. Did you know Vince Gill opened for Kiss once? Yes, I did, because Vince Gill saved my life, but you guys know that. I would be dead if it wasn't for Vince Gill. So blame him. That's true. My 50th, I spent at Primus. Oh my God, that's hilarious. My name is Mud. Not to be confused with David Dishes, Abercrombie, that's long for mud. So I've been told. Told that by this son's a bitch who lies before me, bloated, blue, and cold. How many cats do I have? We have 3. So yeah. Yeah, this is a good one too. Thank you, Can't Stop Lying, for putting this up. This is a new one. He's upping his game. Look at that. If you want to book me for something, this is where you do it. You go to the contact form there, or you go to bookhal@icloud.com. So that's awesome. And you even got icons in there. I'm impressed, Can't Stop Lying. I want you to know I missed. Yeah, Carl has 2 rescue cats and 1 rescue dog, and we have 2 rescue cats and 1 rescue chud. So there you go. And that lady you saved at the airport wouldn't be here either. Nice yin yang. That's true. Well, I'm up to 11. My life-saving count is, if you count all the people I kept from drowning in the creek behind my house and at the pool in Frankfurt when I was growing up. My plus body sign, my body count plus is 11. I've actually officially saved 11 lives. I was very happy when I crossed into 10. I was shocked when I got 11, because I was like, what are the odds this kind of stuff will happen again? So I feel good about my karmic, checklist right now. Progressive Illinois, best state in the union. It's a great state, I have to admit. Oh, Chud's done. She's done shedding on me. You heading the other way? Okay. I think she wants food now. You hear about the Australian who lives across... He talked 144 people out of killing themselves by inviting them in for tea. That's awesome. I'm surprised they didn't bring him in to crack the tubes, but I think it's fantastic. Hi. Hello, friend. You might think that there's nothing left in life, but come over here. I got a hot pipe and cup of tea for you. Couple of pastries. Have a sit down. Let you know. 2 reasons not to jump off that cliff. 1, life is full. The world is a big place. There's 9 billion people out in the world. You can meet one of them and strike up a conversation, realize, wow, they've changed my life. I've changed theirs. That's a fantastic time, to be alive, recognize your humanity in another person, right? That's a fantastic thing. And the other reason not to jump off that cliff is, I live here. Stop jumping off the cliff in front of my house. It's driving my real estate values down. I've lived here for 20 years because I can't sell the place. Yeah, it's nice. Got 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, put in a whole new toilet. Yeah, people do jump off a cliff in front of it, but it's got so much more going for it. It's a big backyard. No, nobody jumps off a cliff in the backyard. They hang themselves from the tree. It's depressing, but, I'll do what I can to keep the numbers down. I have, you got to say, I've eliminated, put in a trampoline, and I've driven off the dingoes. So people try to hang themselves, they just go boing. So come on, let's crack the tubes. Hal saved me from missing out on QAF, which saved me in a way. Well, that's a good start. I don't know, and now I'm stuck in a Australian accent, which is how that crap's Aborigine Hal, right? How's it going, Walt? Fair diggum. So, the Kennedy granddaughter killers. Oh, yeah. Well, no one's immune from that right now, and All I can do is cheer people up. I swear to God, like, I now, like, my life's work as far as comedy goes and music is to just give people stuff to go to that makes them feel better. You know what I mean? When you come away and you're just like, we laughed really hard. That was really great. Oh, I can't wait till the next time. Hey, Hal, I'm thinking of going on a break. You think you could do shows at my house in front of Suicide Cliff? I'll be dead, honestly, if I had not seen your comedy show, you made me laugh, and it's been forever since I had. Oh, thanks, Amy. I appreciate that. That's the goal. Welcome to Australia, where everything here will kill you. Seriously, just looking at the spiders. We've got spiders here that can murder you with a glance. That's right. They're just kind of, you ever seen like 95 eyes? We got the only arachnids with 9 legs. It's not a leg, I'll tell you that right now. I'm just saying your life's in danger. Watch out. A spider ate my dingo. We're this close to that being the case. What hooks is Joseph trying to do? Really? Yawn. Pfft. There you go. Goodbye. I'm going down to my apartment pool again this afternoon. It's going to be my joy for the day. Get some sun, read a book about Ann Lister. Yeah, I don't think that you can blame Chicago's problems as a city on the gender or sexuality of anyone. Yeah. Carrie Ann Maxwell. Ann Lister was a bawdy lesbian. Oh, was she now? You're certain about that? You know, I think a real lag on when I'm seeing stuff on the chat versus some of the rest of you folks. Yeah, there's usually a drag on it. Yeah, it happens. It's not, there's a mix in there, but I'm kayaking on the ocean, dog in front, beer in the back. That sounds like some sort of weird redneck sexual mullet. Dog in the front, beer in the back. That's what we did. Like, I got a poodle up here, and I got one of those large dreadlocks that looks like a can of soup. That's what. Dog in the front, beer in the back. Come on now. That's what you got to do. That's what's going on. All right. TMI about Ann. She used to keep lockets that contained her girlfriend's pubic hair. All right, Carrie. Is she going to end up on the Legacy Project's website? Hi, kids. Welcome to the Legacy Project, where you can learn all about the important contributions that LGBT people have made to our society that you may not have heard about in your regular class, and now you're doing a project on them. Let's jump right to the important ones. Never mind the many lesbians that worked for NASA over the years and are responsible for jet propulsion and all kinds of other wonderful things, and basically elbowing the Nazis out of position. Let's talk about this lady who had a vial of pubic hair she wore around her neck at all times or whatever. Like, whack. Billy Ray Cyrus, champion of the mullet. I would argue that the champion of the mullet, because I think Billy Ray Cyrus, more than his hair, it was the taint that he was known for, right? Taint a mustache, taint a beard. But the king of mullets is clearly and abidingly and abundantly Richard Marx, our dear friend Richard Marx, who, by the way, great politics, good human being across the, and one of the most wickedly funny people you'll ever meet. Super talented, really good guy. Never thought of all people. I mean, we're both Chicagoans. You know, Richard Marx is a Chicago favorite son. But, yeah. Soul patch, right. I don't think they... I don't know if... yes, he is married to Daisy Fuentes. That's right. Yeah, Richard and Daisy are often very funny. It's true. I mean, they like follow Richard Marx on Twitter, guys, because if you'll love his politics, he's a decent dude, and he's just overall really funny, and we like his music. And like Richard, I will be right here waiting for you. I literally texted Richard Marx from China because I found a line of pastry stores there in the Xi'an province called Angelia, which is a song of his. Angelia, where you running to now? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it's wrong one. There we go. I actually like Old Town Road, but couldn't sing it with the kids because it said boobies. Oh, I've got the halo again. Hulk Hogan is Hulk Hogan is not the godfather of mullets. He was bald with he's like the guy who brought into vogue those hats and headbands you can buy that have the bald cap and the hair down the back. He never have a mullet. There's a party in the back and there's no the business out front is closed for renovations. There's a party in the back because the business was destroyed in a hurricane. Just he's got a skullet. I think you want to keep me because my fake hair color finally ate through. Yeah, I think it's all right. I had a little kid scream lunch at my boobies yesterday. And by little kid, were you at a Trump rally? Mentally a little kid. Is Jeff Foxworthy King Mullet? Because I feel like he had more of a rat tail for a while, and he was always kind of just short all around. I mean, Richard Marx's mullet is next level, honest to God. Hey, what happened to my frame on my... What the heck happened with that? There it is. Come back. Must have knocked something out. You like a toddler? What about Andre Agassi? Yeah, I think that qualifies. Jerry was a race car driver. Drove so goddamn fast. Never did win no checkered flag, but he never did come in last. Captain Pierce was a strong man. Strong as any man alive. Stuck in his craw, they made him retire at the age of 65. Oh, I can rock me some Primus, man. I've never won. Like, everybody who plays an instrument, we're like, how hard can it be to tap on a bass like that and just... Because he makes it look so effortless. That's Primus for anybody who doesn't know. Jerry was a race car driver. Trump's hair appears to be... yeah, that's an excellent point. He's gotten really mullety lately, although he's been... It seems like he's in Mussolini mode. If you watch the way he's... I mean, it keeps his jowls from photographing poorly. That's a huge... And that's the same reason Mussolini did it. Because as soon as the Germans started wearing these tight collars, Mussolini did too, but he had a fat neck, so he didn't want to get this kind of squish neck thing going on. So he would carry his jaw out in front of it like that. And Trump's doing the exact same thing. Trump does that thing where he sticks out his bottom lip, which... Alec Baldwin was making fun of for a long time, and apparently he does that in pictures because he thinks it makes him look like Churchill. How grow a mullet? That would be so hot. You have earrings. This is true. I toyed with the idea of a mullet for a while, but then I got Nerd Halen and kind of stuck with that. Yes, Les Claypool is a genius. Hop on our Amazon store, amazon.com/shop/HalSparks. I don't think you need the thumbs up in the little baggie, but I love it. I mean, when you're typing it in. I don't mean can't stop lying. I mean, when people are entering it in, like, oh, where is the emoji on this? How do I put an emoji? How long before we have emoji URLs? Because I would love to buy, Hal Sparks dash smiling scoop of chocolate ice cream. You had Paul Stanley hair a while back? Oh, indeed I did. Oh, should I show you guys what I got in Atlantic City? Oh, this is just for the people who stuck around. Oh, this is something else. So my buddy Rob, who lives not far from Atlantic City, was my roommate back in the day and collected a bunch of stuff and gave this envelope to me. Here it comes. I think some of you have never seen, some of you might have seen this, a couple of these, but I'm not going to show it because it'll just be, just for patrons to see a bunch of stuff. But I'll show two pictures because I don't think you guys have any idea. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Let's go straight with, we'll go with Stranger Things. Anybody watch Stranger Things? Anybody watch Stranger Things? How's that earring? And for Act, who isn't here, but you can kind of tell, I'm wearing my Billy and the Boingers shirt, which I had stripped down. That's right. My eyebrows have calmed down as my head has gotten bigger. Yeah. Oh, wait. That's not long hair Hal, by the way. That's long hair. This is probably, where is it? This one, right here. I miss growing my hair out like you have no idea. But it wasn't, I didn't start working until I got, until I cut my hair. But yeah, so what's the dude in Stranger Things? Steve the hair, the guy who works in the ice cream shop. I couldn't get arrested looking like this back then, and now this is, and now all of a sudden this is the way to go. I wasn't kidding with the I love the 80s. So there you go. Hire us for your hair color. Yeah, I need my Scoops Ahoy outfit. That's right. Thanks. All right. Well, I very well may. My agents will hate it, and they'll get all mad at me. Should go back to that look. I very well may. I could still pull it off, I think. Yeah. Rachel Maddow. I look more like Rachel now than I did back then. That was 91? Yeah. Looks more like John Lithgow and Buckaroo Banzai. Really? I look like John Lithgow and Buckaroo. Oh, all right. When Hal carried his hairspray with him everywhere he went. I don't need much hairspray. My hair is fairly thick and wavy, so it just does it. Hal Halloween costume this year? Actually, I gotta think. Because the long hair was 90s. the shoulder hair was 89. And the reason I know this is because I met an older woman. How do I get into this conversation? And I left her apartment with just a jacket and jeans. She still has my Billy and the Boners tank top. Hi, how are you?
Doing good.
Good. Hello. Look at this. Can you say hi to everybody?
Hi.
What's happening? Did you have fun in Atlantic City? Did you tell them about? You want to tell them about the boardwalk? What do we do on the boardwalk?
We did the cups. I never got a chance to go to the boardwalk and say, no, you put magnets on.
Right. Call out the scam.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But we got some pizza, and we rode the Ferris wheel.
Yep.
And we found some shells for you to give your mom and your sister.
I still have those.
Yeah.
In my backpack. They never got
That's
touched.
right. That's right. Yeah. And we got to go out, and we went to that arcade, and you won a bunch of tickets, and you got a Slinky. And what else did you get?
3 dinosaurs, an ice cream thing.
Yeah, the ice cream cup and ball. We have to fix that, by the way.
Yeah, we have to fix that.
Yeah, we got to glue that. So remind me of that after, because we got it. That's our project. Because we were gonna fix it when we got home. So don't push the buttons. It'll. Well, here, push this one. Push that button. There you go. Ta-da! Now push this one again. Now push the other one again. Now push it back and forth. There you go. Flashing. There you go. Don't make the computer explode. Okay, that's fine. You overwhelm it. Here, we'll leave it on that one right now. Thank you, Assistant Engineer Camden. Good job.
Can you watch YouTube?
No, that doesn't watch YouTube. That opens up my YouTube channel or whatever. This is part of, thanks to our patrons, this is the thing that helps me control the show without having to, go through, typing things every single time.
Clean feed?
No, don't open Clean Feed. Because we use that's what I use to do the radio show. So I don't need to do that right now because we're in the post show right now. So there you go. So there you go. Oh, Cam saw them. Cam saw the pictures, and Julie says, Cam's so cute. And Amos says, Cam. Yeah. Cam. Hi, Cam. Camden. Yeah, Cam could pull off the long hair. Julie says, hi, Cam.
Hi.
Under the boardwalk. Cam the man, says Brad. There you go. Michelle says, and Can't Stop Lying says, Cam, hey, you little giant.
Yeah. Giant.
Yes, you are.
I'm a little giant.
That's right. Did you show him your bottom tooth? You lost a tooth. Look at that. You lean this way. There you go. See that? You got one. We got one gone. We need the rest of them to fall out. Here, hold on. Where's that hammer? Where's the hammer? We'll just...
Can I smash yours out first?
Sure.
Because I would love to do that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
fine.
Okay,
I'll find the hammer.
Yeah, go find the hammer, and then we'll get to that. We'll
use
take
this?
turns knocking each other's teeth out.
Can I drill your tooth out?
All right, son of mine. Come here. Give me that. Is that a drill?
No.
What is it?
You said to take your tooth out.
What is this?
It's a measure.
Yeah, it's a tape measure. It's not. I can't have people thinking my son doesn't know the difference between a screw gun and a tape measure. Especially when you are, how tall are you right now? Let's see. Stand right here. Stand up straight. You are currently 40. We'll give it a second. 40. Let's go. 46 3/4 inches tall. That's pretty great. That is pretty much, you know what we call that height?
What?
Every ride height. That's every ride at Disneyland anyways. I think the one thing we ran into is there was a 48-inch limit. Yeah. Are those Camden has Shark teeth. They just fall out and a new set comes in. What does this button do? What does this button do? Right, it's gonna blow everything up. Julie wants to know if you're ready for school to start.
I'm ready for if I'm ready for school to start.
Yeah. Are you ready? I love your hesitation. It's perfect.
Yeah.
You are?
I'm ready, but I'm also ready for playing games on the iPad.
What?
Games.
Oh, games. No,
video games.
Yeah, but what's Prodigy?
Yeah, Prodigy.
Yeah.
I can't even remember my password.
Oh, well, don't say it out loud and don't even think it out loud because people are watching. You don't repeat your password out loud in front of anybody. That's what makes it a password.
Okay.
My secret password is password. Don't tell anyone.
That's what Dee Dee said.
I know, I'm kidding.
She always says my secret password. Make your secret password be password. So nobody. So if you say mine's 9999999, they'll like 99999. I'm like, that doesn't even do anything.
Right. All they have to do is go through each number, hit it a certain number of times, and then they're in. Yeah, I think that's Herman Cain's PIN number, if I'm not mistaken, everybody. Oh, yeah, EO's saying you have to be 52 inches to ride Batman the Ride. But those are the grown-up ones for sure. You know, I think it's beyond the height aspect. He's tall enough to ride all the rides we'd want to ride. There's some that are taller, rides, but they'd also shake, his business.
To make myself taller, we used to put socks on top of
Don't
socks.
tell people that how we used to sneak you into Star Tours.
Well, that's not how we did it. We at least
what did we do?
We put grown-up shoes on, then stacked shoes. Then put. We did?
We weren't nearly as slick as I thought we were.
We'll fit other shoes inside shoes.
Oh, that's right. You wore shoes on shoes.
And then once we got the one that fit inside
the old three pairs, the old turducken shoes trick works every time. Slippers socks inside of slippers inside of shoes. We took a separate set of socks and we folded them up and put them in his shoes because he was a quarter inch away. It was you were a quarter. You were this much away from being able to do it, and they're like, nope, sorry. And I'm like, okay, follow me, kid. And we waited for the shift change, and I took my socks off and put them in your shoes and folded them over, and then you were tall enough. Don't tell anyone.
You already told him.
Oh, no.
You already did.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Kid, why are you wearing a size 32? Why are you wearing LeBron James's shoes?
Pants.
Yeah, his pants, right?
Is
he tall enough?
Does it look like
Yes.
Does it look like his pants?
Yes, you were wearing pants. It's a good thing.
Yeah, but what type? Whose pants are these?
They're your pants.
Hope I didn't steal them.
Steal them?
Maybe I did. I don't know.
You can't steal your own pants. They're your pants.
You couldn't have stolen them.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, but why would you want to steal them if you can't even fit inside of them?
That's right. Why would I steal pants those small and then give them to you to wear?
I might take those off and then, put it as a shirt. Just cut a little
Just
hole.
so baggy you could wear them as a jumpsuit?
I, cut a hole in the bottom.
Right.
And I got pants on!
I think it's a good look. All right, downstairs. Love you. See you in a minute. Give me a kiss. Mwah. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Love you. Thank you so much. Bye. Say bye, everybody. Bye. 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 Worldwide pants. See Spider-Man. Yes, this is true. He was wearing his Spider-Man shirt and his Spider-Man hoodie, so he takes the hoodie off and he's still Spider-Man underneath. It was great. It was like his identity was Spider-Man, and his secret identity was Spider-Man. Yes, Kim has me blush. Letterman love. That's right. Worldwide pants. Short sell. Which one was that? Tom doesn't sound like that. Yeah, I think it's 12:20. I'm gonna go play with him, so I'm gonna sign off now. I think we're gonna mixing what we're doing, and I think people are gonna want to check in on this the shooting that's going on, and I'm not gonna do a play-by-play of those things. I refuse to. So I mean, it's bad enough that they happen. So I don't want to give them any more attention than they already deserve in that regard. This Monday, Nerd Halen at the Whiskey in LA. I'm going to see if I can stream that. We're going to keep. I might direct stream it. We'll figure out how we're going to do it. It's a little tricky with the Whiskey and how they do that. And then let's see. Gosh, so many shows. So Saturday is 01. Sunday is show at Flappers, which is the beginning of the Burbank Comedy Festival. I might be doing a couple more shows through them. Monday is the only day I will be completely offline all day because I will be Summer's birthday, and we kind of want to treat her like it's a birthday, 100% focus is the least we can do. And then I'm probably going to do a couple more spot Burbank Comedy Festival shows after that the rest of the week. And then I'm coming to Illinois. Indiana first. Indiana, end of the month, doing stand-up at Helium in Indianapolis. And then I'm trying to arrange, since we've been trying this for a little bit, and Julie's going to be in the country, I think, stretch of time. First week of September, I'm going to try and do an HSRPM Chicago show again. I'm reaching out to the station about that this week. So we'll work out all the details on that, especially now that linking in is so much easier than it used to be. So we can be a little more, we can just broaden where we can do it. So we don't have to do it way out in Elgin or whatever. We can do it, inside the city someplace and have a nice, kind of a place with a broader gathering people for the folks that are downtown. So, hey, Brian. Tell Brian I said hi back. Don't forget there's Cameos, and there's Patreon, and there's PayPal, and there's a lot of ways you can help out the show if you want to do it in a one-off or you want to do it in multiple things. Awesome. Any way you can support, we greatly appreciate it. Even if that is just being here, liking the show, and sharing it. Every little bit helps, and we really appreciate it. I want you to know that. I adore you guys. I'm going to sign off now so I can go play with my kid, and because he goes back to school next week. And so there you go. So join the Patreon so we can you can get in on the meetups, and all will be well. Here we go. So take care of yourself and take care of somebody else, and I will see you guys next time. Big hugs all around. Thanks for troll watching, Julie and Carl. Thanks for all the promo, Can't Stop Lying, and thanks for everybody who I want to jump in here like one last second and say a big thank you to everybody who super chatted us today too, because I want to get that and make sure that will it pop up? Does it show me? Yeah, there we go. Right before Chud decides to jump in my lap again. So thank you so much, Billy Hutchings. Thank you so much for that. Ike, for doing it for the first time. Amazing. Charles Hayden, who had to drop out earlier and run off. Carl, bless you, and thanks for using the stickers. YouTube loves that. Julie, thank you immensely. Bless your heart. And World According to Briggs is a first-time supporter, so that's really nice of you. I appreciate that. All you guys are wonderful. Thanks so much. One more time for Carrie Maxwell's announcement for supporting the Legacy Project, legacyprojectchicago.org. Supporting any, Chud, hi. You in my leg, just the bleeding won't stop anytime soon. Thank you. And anyways, we will see you guys. Thank you guys a ton. We will see you next time. Chud's rubbing on the microphone. Look at, she's pushing the windscreen aside. Bless your heart. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I will see you next time. Take care, and we're on our way. We're on our way. Become a Patreon supporter and help us reach our goal of actually getting an eventual studio and all kinds of cool stuff. Be well. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys so much. Bye, and thanks again so much, Patreons. Bye.